Part 25. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 249. Chapter 242-240. There is a view in the living room. The environment around Nortel is indeed not very good. Although the construction of the third ring road has been rapid in the past 2 years, there are still too few businesses. But compared to other places, it's pretty good. After all, there's a school here and there's no shortage of coffee shops. Li Dabai panted and caught up with Chen Lian, who had just left school, and asked breathlessly, "Teacher Chen, do you want to leave now?" "No, why didn't you chat more with that colleague of yours?" Chen Lian looked at her and asked with a smile. Li Dabai patted his chest to calm down, glanced at Yu Fiheng next to Chen Lian and said, "Didn't I see you coming out? I thought you were leaving." "No, let's go have a cup of coffee together." Li Dabai didn't know what Chen Lian and Yu Fiheng were thinking about going to drink coffee together. He shook his head and said, "I won't disturb you anymore. I can't get used to it." Chen Lian didn't force it, looked at Yu Fiheng and said, "Then let's go." Yes, Yu Fiheng nodded to Li Dabai, and then followed Chen Lian. After walking a few steps away, Yu Fiheng said with a smile, "You are a very dedicated assistant and good-looking, no worse than the big-eyed freshman just now." Well, from the Oriental dance troupe, Chen Lian felt that Li Dabai was much prettier than Yanzi, both in appearance and figure. Yu Fiheng nodded suddenly and said, "No wonder." However, Yu Fiheng was a little curious as to why Chen Lian would find someone from a dance troupe to be his assistant. Generally, only the bosses in society would find such people as their mistresses. However, thinking of Chen Lian's identity, Yu Fiheng did not think Chen Lian's motives were dirty. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian and Yu Fiheng walking into the coffee shop at the school gate, and couldn't help but sigh. Teacher Chen really liked to be more mature. I don't know if I will develop a good friend again this time. I am really too busy. The coffee shop chosen by Chen Lian and Yu Fiheng is not large, but the owner is still very charming, and the decoration and music in the shop are very good. After Yu Fiheng sat down, she looked around and said, "There was no coffee shop here a few years ago." "It wasn't available last year," Chen Lian continued, looking at the menu and ordering a cup of coffee, and said, "I don't know how the coffee here is." "It should be pretty good." Yu Fiheng glanced at the coffee beans on the bar at the door. The two of them sat there after ordering and suddenly didn't know what to say. Two people who had just met today came to the coffee shop inexplicably. Chen Lian saw a book in the bag next to Yu Fiheng and asked curiously, "Do you like reading books?" Yu Fiheng was stunned for a moment, then followed Chen Lian's gaze to his bag, and explained, "I haven't read the gift my friend gave me today." Chen Lian looked at the title of the book on the cover and asked curiously, "Can you show it to me?" "Okay." Yu Fiheng took the book out of the bag and handed it to Chen Lian. Chen Lian took a look at the cover, and it was exactly what he thought, it was the Ginkgo book. Thinking that Yu Fiheng later made the novel into a movie, Chen Lian was quite impressed. What he admired was not Yu Fiheng's love for the novel, but the fact that ghosts appeared in the movie. Chen Lian flipped through it twice and handed it to Yu Fiheng and said, "It's a very good novel. I've read it before." "Really?" Yu Fiheng took it and turned it over a few times, looked at Chen Lian curiously and asked, "What story is it about?" Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "A love story about reincarnation." Yu Fiheng was intrigued by what Chen Lian said. She closed the book and said to him, "Tell me what you wrote." Chen Lian recalled it and talked about the plot of the novel with Yu Fiheng. Chen Lian's voice is very nice, not hasty or slow, and has its own rhythm. Yu Fiheng listened quietly, involuntarily constructing pictures in his mind, and was immersed in the story. More than 10 minutes later, Chen Lian drank coffee, looked at Yu Fiheng, whose eyes were a little red, and shook his head slightly. Girls in their 20s always seem to like this kind of tragic story about unrequited love, longing for the love that spans time and space in the story, and longing for such love themselves. But a story is a story, and it is very different from real love. Even Butterfly Lovers is a fiction created by two unrelated people put together. Love seems to be always beautified in works of art, but in reality it is a complete mess. More than half an hour later, the two came out of the cafe. Yuffie Hung held the book in her hand and was focused on the novel. She especially wanted to go home and read the book again, so she said to Chen Lian, "Your story is very good. I want to go back and read the book. I will talk to you next time you discuss it together." "Okay, I'll contact you after you finish reading." Chen Lian watched Yuffie Hung take a taxi and leave before turning back to school. As soon as he arrived at the school gate, he bumped into Fu Dalong and others who were hurriedly preparing to go out. "What are you going to do? You are dressed like a dog." Chen Lian looked at them and asked. For Chen Lian, most people in the class are strangers and have a strong sense of distance. Sometimes the gap is too big and people become unfamiliar. Fu Dalong and Chen Lian have a relatively close relationship. They have played together many times before, so they don't have much sense of distance from Chen Lian in their hearts. Fu Dalong raised his eyebrows and said with excitement, "Let's go to the Chinese opera. I heard that there are several beauties coming to the Chinese theater this year, all of whom are school beauties. We are going to see them. Do you want to come with us?" Chen Lian twitched the corner of his mouth, thinking that Zheng Li seemed to be in love with Fu Dalong, and said with a strange expression, "You guys are really free, then go ahead. I still need to find teacher Li. I knew you wouldn't go, but if you go, nothing will happen to us, so let's go." Fu Dalong said and ran away with several classmates, as if they were going on a blind date. Watching their departing figures, Chen Lian couldn't help but shake his head. It's great to be young and still have time to go see beauties. But he didn't know how well he could maintain his meticulous grooming after such a hot day. "I hope Nortel won't be embarrassed by looking like a bitch." In the office in the teaching building, Chen Lian finally met Li Qiji. Li Qiji, who had not seen him for half a year, was full of helplessness for Chen Lian. "If you came here right after school started, you definitely weren't here for classes." Li Qiji looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Are you asking for leave again?" "Teacher Li, you really understand me," Chen Lian said with a smile. Li Qiji is now used to Chen Lian being like this. After being his teacher for more than 2 years, the two of them talk most about asking for leave. They don't look like a class teacher and a student. "Don't ask for leave from me. You are already a junior and the school is too lazy to take care of it." Li Qiji felt helpless. Chen Lian smiled and said, "Asking for leave is a trivial matter. The main thing is to come and see you." "Then I thank you." Li Qiji rolled his eyes at Chen Lian, then looked at him and asked, "Why are you asking for leave again this time? Aren't you going to attend the Golden Rooster and 100 Flowers next month? Go to Xiangjiang to discuss cooperation." Chen Lian lied before talking about the Golden Rooster. "I will definitely go to Golden Rooster, but if I don't go there, I'll just run with you." Li Qiji nodded and said, "If Hunghe River Valley participates next year, maybe he can win a prize. There is not much hope this year. Beiwa probably can do it." Chen Lian shrugged and said, "It's good to win the 100 Flowers, but I guess the winner will get the prize, not necessarily the Red River Valley." Li Qiji frowned and thought for a moment, nodded in approval and said, "Indeed, you have donated so much money. I guess the higher UPS will give the winner a prize, otherwise it won't look good on your face." "Haha, can I just spend money to buy a prize?" Chen Lian couldn't help laughing. Li Qiji couldn't help but smile and said, "You can imagine spending millions to buy a prize. Of course, millions cannot buy a prize, and the authorities will not award Chen Lian an award just because of the millions. It just happens to be at the juncture of the Paralympics, and the timing is too clever. Donating money this time can be regarded as an investment with multiple returns, a proper business expert." After Chen Lian came out of the office, he called Li Dabai. After waiting at the school gate for a while, he saw her and Chen Kun coming out together. When Li Dabai saw Chen Lian, he immediately ran over in advance and said with some embarrassment, "Teacher Chen, my friends want to get to know you, so they must follow me." If it were just Chen Kun and Huang Xiaoming, Chen Lian would be willing to give Li Dabai this face, but with Yan Zi next to him, he would be too lazy to cooperate. Chen Lian asked Li Dabai to unlock the car first and then said to her, "I don't have time today, let's get to know each other next time when we have a chance." After saying that, Chen Lian nodded to Chen Kun and the others, opened the car door and got in. Li Dabai felt that Chen Lian's attitude was a little cold, and felt a little annoyed. He turned back and glared at Chen Kun, as if blaming him for insisting on following him, which almost caused him to be scolded. Chen Kun and others who did not follow watched Chen Lian and Li Dabai get into the car and leave, and then looked at each other in confusion. "It's so impressive," Huang Xiaoming said with some envy. Chen Kun nodded subconsciously, feeling that the gap between him and Chen Lian was not only the gap between a junior and a freshman, but also a bottomless chasm that he might not be able to cross in his lifetime. Yanzi's attention was not on the two classmates beside him, his round eyes were shining, such people were his goals. In the car driving away, Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian nervously and asked in a low voice, "Teacher Chen, are you disgusted with what you did just now?" Chen Lian looked away from the car and explained, "No, your friend is good, but I don't like that girl very much." Hearing Chen Lian's words, Li Dabai suspected that she had heard wrongly. This was the first time she heard from Chen Lian that she didn't like someone, and she was also a very good-looking woman. Simply bizarre. Li Dabai asked curiously, "Teacher Chen and Yan Zi have known each other before?" "I don't know." Chen Lian was too lazy to explain and couldn't explain it, so he said to Li Dabai, "Drive your car well, why are there so many problems?" Li Dabai, "Teacher Chen really hates swallows. He has never been so impatient before. It seems that I need to stay away from that Yanzi in the future, and I also need to tell Chen Kun to stay away from her." In the evening, Chen Lian looked at Lu Xiaoli waiting for him at the door of the villa, opened the car door and got out of the car. Li Dabai didn't get out of the car this time, but turned the car around and left. Since Sissy wasn't here tonight, there was no need for him to be a tool, so he might as well go watch a movie with Gao Yuan. Watching Chen Lian walk into the courtyard, Lu Xiaoli felt a sense of expectation and took the initiative to go up to greet Chen Lian. Since the last time she danced with Chen Lian, Lu Xiaoli has been unable to forget it. She feels that Chen Lian has really been imprinted in her heart. Chen Lian looked at Lu Xiaoli walking over, put his arm around her waist very naturally and said, "How have you been during this time?" Lu Xiaoli felt Chen Lian's strong arms, and her heart seemed to turn into water. She looked at him with flowing eyes and said, "Very good, but Sissy always said that Uncle Chen won't come to see her anymore. Did Sissy say it or did you say it? Why do I feel like you are complaining that I don't come to see you?" Chen Lian looked at Lu Xiaoli with a smile, held her hand, and pulled her into his arms with a slight force. Lu Xiaoli immediately bit her lip and looked at Chen Lian without saying a word, with pitiful resentment in her eyes, like a little girl full of grievances. I don't know how real or staged this emotion was, but Chen Lian found it helpful. He hugged her and lifted her chin and said, "I'm not here to see you now, but why did you send Qian away in advance? It's not Qian, do you want to see me?" Hearing Chen Lian's words, Lu Xiaoli's face suddenly turned red, as if her fig leaf had been removed. She looked at Chen Lian with some embarrassment, raised her chin and snorted softly, "Then I will go and bring Qian back now." "Haha, I just like seeing you like this." Chen Lian picked up Lu Xiaoli and walked towards the house. From an angle that Chen Lian couldn't see, a smile appeared on Lu Xiaoli's lips. How could a man like a woman who is smarter than him? Especially with her relationship with Chen Lian, she is dependent on Chen Lian. Sometimes being stupid on purpose is the best way. Which man doesn't have the desire to control? It's the lowest level to only satisfy physical desires. The best way is to let him experience various different satisfactions. In the villa, Chen Lian looked at Lu Xiaoli's carefully prepared dinner and had no intention of eating it. He just carried her to the bathroom. Lu Xiaoli wrapped her hands around Chen Lian's neck and whispered in his ear, "Why don't you eat something first? Don't worry, I'm afraid you'll be hungry." Chen Lian's palms gently kneaded, and Lu Xiaoli immediately groaned, breathing slightly heavier, holding her hands tighter, resting her chin on Chen Lian's shoulders, and whispered in a low voice, "If Sissy is not here, you know how to bully me." Listening to Lu Xiaoli's deliberately delicate words, Chen Lian really felt that the sister was really extraordinary and knew how to capture a man's heart. Chen Lian couldn't help but quicken his pace. It was the first time he hated summer so much. If he hadn't sweated during the day, he wouldn't have taken a shower. But I will continue to sweat later, and I need to sweat something else. More than 20 minutes later, the bathroom door opened, and a pair of wet feet stepped on the smooth floor and stepped out. There were two white and tender little feet swaying in mid-air, and transparent water droplets dripped on the ground along the white soles of the feet. "How about we go to the bedroom? I thought the living room might be nicer and could see the flowers in the yard." I don't know how long it had passed, but Lu Xiaoli's sudden and high-pitched voice came from the large sofa in the living room, which was particularly attractive as she cried and complained. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 250. Chapter 243-241. Do you want to defraud me of money? The sumptuous food on the table was already cold, but Chen Lian didn't mind it. He sat there and ate seriously to replenish his energy. "Does it taste good? Do you want to heat it up?" Lu Xiaoli sat opposite and asked Chen Lian. There were fine beads of sweat on Lu Xiaoli's forehead, and her long black hair stuck to her forehead, looking very charming. Chen Lian swallowed what was in his mouth and said, "No need to heat it, it's delicious. I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good." "As long as you like it." Lu Xiaoli stroked her hair with a smile, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "If you have any favorite dishes, I'll cook them for you next time. As long as it's vegetarian, I don't like it too greasy." "Yeah," Lu Xiaoli hummed, watching Chen Lian eat quietly, and suddenly remembered that when she first met him, they ate braised pork together. Lu Xiaoli decided to go back and learn how to make braised pork. Recalling memories is also a way to increase feelings. After a while, Chen Lian finished eating, looked at Lu Xiaoli and asked, "Have you thought about what you want to do in the future during this time?" Lu Xiaoli looked at Chen Lian and said, "I haven't decided yet. I want to go abroad to see my sister." "Where?" "The United States." Chen Lian raised his head and looked at her and asked. Lu Xiaoli nodded and said, "Yes, she has lived in the United States for many years. I want to visit her." Chen Lian wiped his mouth and said, "Of course. When are you going to go? Will Sissy come with you? She has just started school and she hasn't gotten used to her new classmates yet." "On November, take her with you when Sissy has a holiday," Lu Xiaoli replied. "Is the National Day holiday too short?" Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "It will take 2 days to go back and forth. Then give Sissy a few more days off." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he went to the bathroom to find his clothes, took out a bank card from his wallet and handed it to Lu Xiaoli. "This is my card in the United States. It still has $160,000 to $70,000 in it. You can keep it for when you go out for fun. $100,000 would be worth more than $1,000,000 if converted into RMB, but Chen Lian didn't feel that much. It wasn't like he couldn't make money. Isn't making money just for spending? Just be happy." Lu Xiaoli pursed her lips and hesitated for a moment before taking the card. This was the first time Chen Lian gave her money in person, and she still felt a little strange. Thinking of how a poor family could become rich, Chen Lian paused and said to Lu Xiaoli, I'll ask my friend to transfer some more money to it later, so I don't have to worry about money when I go to play. Yes, Lu Xiaoli hugged Chen Lian gently and said, "You are so kind to me. Is there any reward?" Lu Xiaoli raised her head and looked at Chen Lian, gently caressed his chest with her fingers and said, "What reward do you want?" "What do you think?" Chen Lian lifted Lu Xiaoli's chin, lowered his head and took her red lips in his mouth. "Well." Lu Xiaoli hugged Chen Lian and responded fiercely. After experiencing two intimate exchanges, she seemed to be more passionate and intimate. Emotions are cultivated time and time again. What Zhang Ailing said is right. What is the passage to a woman's heart? Chen Lian stayed at Lu Xiaoli's place that night. It was just the two of them, very relaxed and carefree, leaving traces of their communication everywhere. It seemed that due to her daughter's absence, all the burdens in Lu Xiaoli's heart were temporarily put aside. After Chen Lian left the next day, Lu Xiaoli returned to her gentle mother again when she picked her up. Chen Lian yawned and listened to Li Dabai's chatter. "Teacher Chen, your dark circles have gotten worse again. If you continue not paying attention to rest, your body will be damaged." Li Dabai felt sorry for Chen Lian's health, and also complained that he didn't know how to control himself. "Don't wait until you have the chance. If Chen Lian's health fails, wouldn't it be a loss?" Chen Lian yawned and said, "I know, let's go back and catch up on some sleep now." "Aren't you going to the advertising agency?" Li Dabai relaxed his foot on the accelerator and asked. Chen Lian shook his head and said, "I'm not going. Let's go tomorrow. My phone is out of battery. You can call her later and tell her that I drank too much at a dinner party with my classmates last night." "Okay." Li Dabai knew that she was talking about Chen Myron, and he wondered whether Chen Lian's phone was really out of battery or he didn't want to be scolded by Chen Lian, so he lied to him. Soon after returning home, Chen Lian went to the bedroom. Li Dabai took his mobile phone to the balcony to call Beauty Chen. As expected, he was complained about. Li Dabai hung up the phone with a grimace, came to the bedroom and looked at Chen Lian, who had just laid down to catch up on his sleep, and whispered, "Teacher Chen, Mr. Chen asked you to go to the company at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She has an investment that she is undecided on." Chen Lian hummed in confusion, then patted the bed and said to Li Dabai, "Come here." Li Dabai was stunned for a moment, couldn't help but swallowed his saliva, looked at Chen Lian's dark circles, and said with some trepidation, "Teacher Chen. What am I?" "I want to rest on your leg." Chen Lian opened his eyes and looked at Li Dabai and said, "Li Dabai, I am still a tool man, right?" Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian, who was lying on his lap, and gently rubbed his temples, thinking that sooner or later, he would have to get rid of his status as a tool man. "I want to live in a villa." At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Chen Lian, who was full of energy, came to the company. As soon as she met Chen Myron, she came up and pinched Chen Lian. "What did you do last night?" "I had a meal and drank too much with my classmates." Seeing Chen Lian's expression unchanged, Chen Mei let go of her hand, snorted and said, "Don't turn off your phone next time." Chen Lian helped Chen Myron sit down and said, "I know, I just forgot to charge it." Women during pregnancy have greater mood swings, so Beauty Chen can only endure her temper. After all, Chen Lian still owed her. Chen Lian sat opposite Chen Myron and asked, "Why did you ask me to come here today?" Chen Myron took a document from the table and handed it to Chen Lian and said, "The Kangxi crew wants to invest more, and the film Returning on a Snowy Night has been completed, but the Grand Theater wants to sell it directly to Beijing Satellite TV. Why additional investment?" Chen Lian flipped through it and found that there was an additional investment of 1 million, which was not a small amount. Chen Myron said with a headache, "It is said that the budget is not enough. This time I didn't join the team to keep an eye on it. It's hard to tell the specific situation." After thinking for a moment, Chen Lian took out his cell phone and called Chen Zihan in front of Myron Chen. The call was quickly connected, and Chen Lian said directly without giving Chen Zihan time to speak, "Hey, it's me, are you and Zhang Qingqing still on the set?" In the Kangxi crew, Chen Zihan, who had just finished filming a scene, was originally very happy to receive a call from Chen Lian, but hearing Chen Lian's serious tone, he suddenly felt a little sad. But after a moment of silence, he said, "Still on the set? Well, has anything happened to the crew recently?" Chen Lian took the phone and said proactively, "I received a request from the crew for additional investment today. I don't know what happened to the crew." Hearing that Chen Lian was looking for him for business, Chen Zihan suppressed his emotions. Thinking of the news he accidentally heard 2 days ago, Chen Zihan immediately understood. Chen Zihan glanced around, walked to the corner with his mobile phone and whispered, "2 days ago, I heard the director and Zhang Qilai discussing how to increase expenses, but I didn't hear the details clearly. I wanted to tell you, but yesterday the call didn't go through." After hearing what Chen Zihan said, Chen Lian couldn't help but frown. He glanced at Beauty Chen sitting opposite, and then said, "Yesterday, my phone was turned off. I know about it. Please help me pay attention to it on the set. I'll contact you later." After saying that, Chen Lian hung up the phone and called Zhang Qingqing again. After asking a few questions, he hung up the phone. He looked at Chen Myron and said, "We are probably being taken advantage of." "What do you mean?" Chen Myron suddenly got a little excited. She looked at Chen Lian and asked, "You mean, they cheated you out of this million?" Chen Lian nodded and said, "An investment of 6 million is normally enough. It would be strange to suddenly add 1 million. In addition, I have recently become a famous idiot with money that can't be spent all. People will naturally focus on me wallet. Is it Zhang Qilai?" Chen Myron came to her senses. She thought about how difficult it was when she and Zhang Qilai were discussing cooperation before, and said angrily, "He's gone too far." Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said calmly, "Not everyone in the industry is like this now. Why did he want to go it alone in the first place? It wasn't just for money. Who doesn't want to make more money?" Chen Lian walked up behind Mei Chen and rubbed her shoulders. He didn't want her to be angry because of this matter, as she was still pregnant. "Don't worry about this little thing. This is a game between investors and producers. Which director doesn't want to take more money from investors' pockets? Let me handle this matter." 1 million, Chen Myron said angrily, "We really think we have been taken advantage of? I will go to the crew tomorrow to ask him what he means. Don't worry about this, just leave it to me." Chen Lian smiled and comforted Chen Myron and said, "As investors, you have to get used to this kind of temporary addition. Who makes us rich? I'm just angry. 1 million is not 10,000. What made Chen Myron most angry was that if Chen Lian hadn't been in the capital this time, she might have given the money without hesitation. It is normal for producers to seek additional investment from investors, but some really do not have enough budget, while others simply want to defraud money. According to Kangxi's production scale, an investment of 6 million is definitely enough. The additional 1 million must be to put money in his own pocket." After Chen Lian comforted Mei Chen for a while, he got Zhang Qilai's phone number and went outside the company to dial it. The phone rang several times before it was picked up, but it was not Zhang Qilai who answered the phone, but Deng Ji. "Hello, who are you?" Listening to this familiar female voice, Chen Lian guessed it was Deng Ji and said directly, "I am Chen Lian, I am looking for teacher Zhang Qilai." Chen Lian was quite polite in his words. He would not get angry at a woman. That would be too ungraceful. Deng Ji on the other end of the phone knew that Chen Lian was an investor in this drama and guessed why he was calling. Deng Ji turned to look at Zhang Qilai, who was still filming on the set, and then said to the phone, "He is still filming. Can I call you back later?" "Okay, please call me back within 10 minutes. I'm in a hurry." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he hung up the phone, took out a piece of chewing gum from his pocket and threw it into his mouth. It's impossible not to get angry when encountering something like this. Although he is not the kind of person who takes money very seriously, it doesn't mean that anyone can come to him to cheat money. I really thought he was a fool. Chen Lian waited for a few minutes before the phone rang. As soon as the call was connected, he heard Zhang Quilai's polite voice. "Hello, Teacher Chen, my name is Zhang Quilai. You're welcome. I'm too young to bear the title of teacher." Chen Lian said in a serious tone, "I am calling this time to ask about the additional investment required by the crew and why the production cost of 6 million exceeds so much. Are you sure you want 1 million? Zhang Quilai felt a little pressure inexplicably when he heard Chen Lian's voice. Chen Lian had a relatively high status and was also a financial sponsor, so Zhang Quilai naturally felt a little respectful. However, the additional investment has been discussed with the director, and now I can only bite the bullet and say, yes, it is indeed over the budget. As for the specific amount required, this is the director's calculation, and I don't know much about it." Zhang Quilai still left some leeway for himself and did not dare to be too tough. Hearing Zhang Quilai's evasive words, Chen Lian, who was holding the phone, sneered and said, "Then please help me tell the director, if you can do it, if you can't, get out. If we can't finish shooting for 6 million, it doesn't matter if this show is ruined in my hands. I don't care about a few $1,000,000. But please tell him that he may not have the opportunity to work in this industry again in the future." After saying that, Chen Lian hung up the phone without giving Zhang Quilai time to react. Leslie Chung's expression on the other side of the phone changed from stunned to ugly. What Chen Lian said was that the director was actually talking about him. He served as the producer and supervisor of this drama. It can be said that he started it all by himself. It's not like Chen Lian didn't know that the director was not targeting him. The most important thing is that Chen Lian didn't give any chance to explain at all, and seemed to directly believe that the additional 1 million was a fraud. Zhang Quilai glanced at the director and Deng Ji opposite, and said in a serious tone, "He seems to know what's going on here." "What's going on? What did he say?" Deng Ji asked a little strangely. She had answered Chen Lian's call before, and she seemed to be a very elegant person. Zhang Quilai sighed and repeated what Chen Lian just said, then turned his eyes to Zhang Ziyin and said, "What should I do now that it's like this?" Zhang Xin said nonchalantly, "What can he do to me? At worst, I won't seek investment from him in the future. I'll contact Beauty Chen again to see if I can get the money." Zhang Quilai looked at Zhang Xin and explained helplessly, "If this matter gets out, do you think anyone will dare to invest in us in the future? And Chen Lian is famous in it. Just find a leader to say a few words, and the two of us will don't even think about getting ahead in the future." Deng Ji looked at Zhang Quilai nervously and asked, "Then what should we do? What else can we do now? Let's finish filming the drama first. As for Chen Lian, he can only find a way to make up for it later." Zhang Quilai could also feel that Chen Lian did not want to completely break up with him, otherwise he would not talk about the director in a roundabout way. Of course Chen Lian doesn't want to quarrel directly. After all, the TV series has been filmed halfway, and everything will be settled after the filming is completed. Zhang Quilai regrets it now. He has just established a foothold in the capital. If something like this happens now, it will be difficult to handle in the future. I didn't get the money, and I offended someone. But how did Chen Lian directly believe that he was an investment fraud? Luluakio in the previous movie also spent more than 7 million. Why is it that Luluakio can do it but Kang Zi can't? Zhang Quilai suddenly thought of Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan, who were currently filming with the team, and he seemed to suddenly understand. No wonder they didn't arrange a producer on the set, and only arranged 2 actors to come over. It's like sending 2 spies to keep an eye on themselves, right? Zhang Quilai probably had a headache after guessing the truth. He looked at Zhang Xin and sighed and said, Let's just leave it at that. It's best to explain it to him in person later. Zhang Xin twitched the corner of his mouth. What should he explain? How do you explain this thing? Explain that I didn't mean to defraud you of your money. You won't let yourself take the blame in the end, right? Zhang Xin thought of what Zhang Kuilai said to Chen Lian just now, and suddenly felt a chill on his back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 251. Chapter 244-242. Having evil intentions. The film and television industry has never been a circle that abides by rules. There is a set of rules under the rules. They have their own unique way of playing, using some of their small rights and some so-called rules within the circle to achieve some of their dark thoughts. This is commonly known as the unspoken rules. The unspoken rules don't just refer to sleeping with actors. There are many things in them. It is also a common understanding among everyone that the film crew will try to steal some money from the producers, and the producers will try to steal some money from the investors. Chen Lian did not find it strange that Zhang Kuilai wanted to invest more. He knew from the beginning that Zhang Kuilai would do such a thing. In his previous life, Chen Lian had heard something about Zhang Kuilai, which was that he made a lot of money out of Kang Zi's TV series, and in the end, Kang Zi's copyright was auctioned off. Originally, Chen Lian thought that with Mei Chen as the producer, there wouldn't be much of a problem. The most they could do was $1,000,000 or $200,000. But who would have thought that Chen Miren was secretly pregnant, and now there is no supervision at all. The whole crew is in the hands of Leslie Chung and Zhang Xin, so they can't be greedy as much as they want. It is true that the crew has no funds now, but the money is not used for filming. At least 10% of the initial investment has been taken away by them in various ways. These people are really greedy. If they were in Xiangjiang, they would probably have been reclaimed from the sea. That means the environment in the mainland is good, otherwise who would get used to their bad habits? This incident also exposed the company's current problems, including imperfect management and lack of talent. Most of the things were handled by Chen Miren herself. Even the advertising business is mostly negotiated by Chen Miren, so there is no way to make a company bigger. Chen Lian has never been a business person, nor does he understand management or accounting. His only advantage is that he has some memories of the future, but it is too difficult to turn these into wealth. What he brought back after his rebirth was only some artistic talent, but no business talent at all. Otherwise, whoever is reborn into the literary and art circles, wouldn't it be nice to go into business and make money? Chen Lian thought outside for a while before returning to Chen Miren's office. By this time, Miren Chen had calmed down. It's not like she's never been on the set before, and she's not unclear about these things. She's just a little angry after her role changed. In the past, I took money from other people's pockets, but now I have others taking money from my own pocket. It feels completely different. Seeing Chen Lian come in, Chen Miren frowned and said, "You'd better not come forward in this matter." "I'll handle it. I'll handle it." "Don't get so angry," Chen Lian said uneasily. Chen Miren shook her head and said, "I know you don't like this kind of thing. You don't have the experience like me, and I will be in charge of the company in the future, so I can't rely on you for everything." Chen Lian looked at Mei Chen's serious look, nodded slightly and said, "I'll go with you and sit in the rear for you. This time it's not a big deal, so just take it as a lesson. The question is, does the crew still have money to continue filming?" Chen Miren said with some worry. "The 6 million invested earlier can't really go to waste. The money is definitely gone, but the crew's lack of money does not mean that Zhang Kuilai and the others have no money. This cooperation has already yielded a lot of profits. He is a bit too greedy. You want Zhang Kuilai to spit out the money? Chen Myren thought for a moment and shook her head. It's unrealistic. How can you spit out what you have eaten? Chen Lian smiled and said, it's fine without vomiting. It depends on whether he can digest it. Seeing Mei Chen's irritable look, Chen Lian held her hand and said, the most important thing now is not whether Kang Zi can continue filming, but the problems exposed by the company. It doesn't matter even if the millions are wasted, it's not like I don't have money. Hearing Chen Lian's words, Chen Myren couldn't help but roll her eyes at him and said, that's millions, not hundreds of dollars. That's my son's milk powder money, I have to make him spit it out. Hearing what Chen Myren said, Chen Lian couldn't help laughing. He didn't know if Chen Myren was being strong as a mother. Chen Lian thought for a while and said to Chen Myren, now send someone from the company to check the accounts. Don't come forward. Give Zhang Kuilai and the others some time to make amends. If they really intend to eat without spitting it out, then we will come forward again. Are you still going to leave room for him? Chen Myren was a little angry and felt that this was too cheap for Zhang Kuilai. Zhang Kuilai is not that stupid. I will leave him room and he will catch it, Chen Lian said with a smile, and you also said that it was an investment of several million, not a few hundred yuan. It's good to know, Chen Myren couldn't help but said angrily, I thought you really didn't care about money. Chen Lian shook his head and did not explain to Myren Chen that he really didn't care about the millions. What he cared about was that Zhang Kuilai regarded him as the wrongdoer. I really thought he had donated millions and everyone said he was a fool, so he really was a fool. I'll knock your head off. Chen Myren sat on the boss's chair, subconsciously twirling on tiptoes, thinking for a while, looking at Chen Lian and saying, but I don't have anyone I can send over now. Chen Lian didn't know much about the company's situation. If there really wasn't a suitable person, he would have to let Li Dabai go temporarily. She also has to give her a financial pretense. After all, it's not really a check, and there's no point in really checking it out. After confirming that he sent Li Dabai to show off, Chen Lian said to Chen Myren, you should recruit people first during this period. The company has too few talents. Yeah, I will. Chen Myren also felt that she had thought that starting a company was too simple before. If Chen Lian hadn't made money by investing in 2 dramas with good vision, she would have turned the company into a dirty business long ago. Chen Myren went to recruit talents. She knew a lot of people in the industry in the past few years. In the past 2 years, several major film studios have been in recession, and there are many people who need jobs. Li Dabai was ordered to put on a show when she was in danger, but she was a little nervous. A 20-year-old girl was still a little panicked when encountering such a thing. Teacher Chen, I'm afraid I can't do it well. I haven't even checked the account. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian nervously. Chen Lian smiled and said, it's okay. Don't say much after you go. Just keep a straight face and carry out financial audits every day. It's just to scare them. Scare them? Li Dabai was stunned for a moment, then he came to his senses, looked at Chen Lian and asked, don't you plan to actually check the accounts? No, I won't let you go if we really investigate. Sure enough, he was just a tool. Li Dabai couldn't help but mutter in his heart, when can he stand up? In Kang Zi's crew, Chen Zihan and Zhang Qingqing sat together, muttering quietly, turning their heads to look at Zhang Xin and Zhang Kuilai from time to time. Qingqing, how dare you say they defrauded Lian of his money? They are too brave. It's still 1 million. You must be brave. After Zhang Qingqing finished speaking, she turned to look at Chen Zihan and said, how many times have I told you, don't call me by my name? Chen Zihan shrank his neck, took Zhang Qingqing's hand and protested softly, didn't you say I can call you by your name outside? Seeing Chen Zihan's submission, Zhang Qingqing snorted proudly, gently squeezed her hand and said, forget it this time, I will punish you next time. Thinking of Zhang Qingqing's punishments that she didn't know where she learned, Chen Zihan's face turned red and he lowered his head and said oh. Zhang Kuilai and Zhang Xin, who were not far away from them, were also annoyed at this time. The two had differences on this matter. Why should you give the money back? Zhang Xin looked at Zhang Kuilai and said, I don't believe he is really willing to let the previous 6 million go to waste. Zhang Kuilai looked at Zhang Xin, who was still holding on, and said speechlessly, then you said that the crew has no money now, how are you going to film the next scenes? Ask him to invest more, at least a little. Zhang Xin felt his heart bleed at the thought of spitting out the embezzled hundreds of thousands. Do you think they will still give it to you? Zhang Kuilai sighed and said, there aren't many scenes left in the future, so let's finish filming together. Zhang Kuilai is different from Zhang Xin. He has just established a foothold in the capital. He has just made a small splash with Luluakuo. If he offends Chen Lian, it will be really difficult for him to get along in the future. Chen Lian is different from ordinary investors. He is not an outsider who only has money, otherwise Zhang Kuilai could fool him. It's a pity that Chen Lian is a member of the circle, and he is well known in the literary and art circles. He has been published in the agency's magazines many times. If you really want to embarrass him, his efforts in the past few years will really be in vain. Zhang Xin knew about Zhang Kuilai's situation. He was silent for a while, mentally calculated the funds needed later, and said with some distress, at least 800,000 yuan is needed to complete the filming. I can't afford this much. How much can you take out? Zhang Kuilai asked immediately when he saw Zhang Xin relented. Zhang Xin hesitated and said, I can spend up to 100,000 yuan. Zhang Kuilai, you took more than 400,000 from the crew, and now you only spit out 100,000. Looking at Zhang Kuilai's ugly face, Zhang Xin supplemented, I have spent all the money. I really have no money. How about we stop talking to Chen Lian and ask him to add another 500,000? Even if you have money, you won't give it to me. When you two got the money, you were faster than anyone else. Now if something goes wrong, you should ask me to pay for it first, right? Zhang Kuilai couldn't afford 700,000, and even if he could, he wouldn't take it. How could he use his own money to top it up? Seeing Zhang Xin's expression of being a dead pig who is not afraid of boiling water, Zhang Kuilai sighed helplessly and said, I'll give it a try, but it's probably useless to ask Chen Lian. I can only try to see if Chen Myron is willing to pay. It's just that before Zhang Kuilai called Myron Chen, Li Dabai had already come to the crew with his finances. Li Dabai kept Chen Lian's instructions in mind. When he arrived at the set, he just said hello to Zhang Kuilai and asked to take out all the accounts of the set and check them himself. Zhang Kuilai looked at Li Dabai's young appearance and was still a little girl, so he was not so wary. He vaguely guessed what Chen Lian meant, so he cooperated and handed over all the accounts to the finance team brought by Li Dabai. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with the accounts, but the prices of many things are just inflated. If I really want to find out the problems, it's really hard to find out without sending 7 or 8 people over. After Li Dabai and the others left with their accounts, Zhang Kuilai sighed softly and said to Zhang Xin, it seems that Chen Lian has no intention of going into details. Zhang Xin's eyes lit up and he said, that's not good. Let's ask him if he is willing to invest more. Zhang Kuilai glanced at him and said, but I also plan to give him money, otherwise I wouldn't have sent a little girl to check the accounts. Deng Ji said worriedly next to her, what should we do? After saying that, Deng Ji glanced at Zhang Xin, feeling a little annoyed that he was only willing to pay 100,000 yuan if something happened. Do they have to pay for the remaining 700,000 yuan as a couple? Zhang Xin turned his head away pretending to be stupid. He really had no money. All the previous money had been spent, and he only had 150,000 left. Being willing to take out 100,000 is already the limit. The most important thing is that Zhang Xin is not that afraid of Chen Lian. He is not a member of the capital circle. The worst he can do is not cooperate with Chen Lian in the future. Seeing Zhang Xin's helpless appearance, Zhang Quilai made up his mind that he would never cooperate with him again in the future. But now the crew really doesn't have enough money to continue filming, so they can only ask Myron for money. Zhang Quilai thought for a while and then said to Deng Ji, "Now we can only go to see Chen Myron. You go back to the capital and ask for 500,000 yuan or 800,000 yuan back." "I'm going to ask for money." Deng Ji was stunned for a moment, looking at Zhang Quilai's subtle eyes. He probably guessed what he meant, and then immediately changed his words, "That's the only way, I'll just go." "Yes, it's best for Deng Ji to go. It's easier for women to talk to each other," Zhang Xin said with a smile. Zhang Quilai put on an ugly smile and said nothing, thinking about how to remove himself this time. Chen Lian didn't know the little thoughts between Zhang Quilai and others, and he didn't bother to think about it. Although he was not a big shot in the industry, not a great director or a second-generation person, he could still manage someone if he really wanted to. There is someone above us. Even if no one still has money, it doesn't take too much to think of ways to fix one person. After all, the entertainment industry is still a circle. Zhang Quilai has just stepped into the circle, and there is no way to kick him out. Chen Lian, who was not panicking, didn't even think about it now. He was busy going to see Yu Fiheng. But this time it was not in a coffee shop, but in a private tea house. Chen Lian couldn't understand why Yu Fiheng, who said she liked drinking coffee the day before yesterday, suddenly invited him to the tea house. The girl finished reading the novel that night and called Chen Lian the next day, wanting to talk to him. Yu Fiheng herself didn't know what she was talking about, but after reading it, she felt like she had a lot of thoughts in her heart, and she had an inexplicable impulse. "Maybe it's the same as when I was in school and saw all the classmates in the class falling in love, and I wanted to fall in love too." When Yu Fiheng reads the novel, Chen Lian's voice that day always echoes in his mind. The slow and contagious voice tells the story of ginkgo biloba in a particularly poignant and beautiful way, as if it is whispering from the bottom of my heart. Yu Fiheng always unconsciously substitutes the image of Chen Lian into the male protagonist of the novel and himself into the heroine. The protagonist in the novel had an instant image. When reading the entire novel, Yu Fiheng felt as if she had had an unforgettable love affair with Chen Lian in the book. Although it was false, Yu Fiheng couldn't help but have strange emotions in her eyes when she saw Chen Lian. Looking at Chen Lian's good-looking face and melancholy temperament, Yu Fiheng felt that he was really similar to the male protagonist in the novel. He was a scholar with a handsome appearance. Literary young women have outstanding brain power and love to fantasize, especially when they are in their 20s, they are the easiest to get addicted to. Chen Lian looked at Yu Fiheng's strange eyes and felt that they were full of affection, which made him feel a little flustered. He had only seen such a look on Mr. Zhou, but Mr. Zhou's temperament and crazy love were obviously not the same as Yu Fiheng's. The most important thing is that he and Yu Fiheng have only met twice. Chen Lian couldn't help but cough slightly, looked at the herbal tea in front of him, and subconsciously turned the cup around. Yu Fiheng looked at Chen Lian's slender and beautiful fingers, looked at the cup of herbal tea and said mysteriously, "The tea is cold, I will give you a refill." Hearing Yu Fiheng's words, Chen Lian immediately paused. Isn't this the most spoken sentence by the heroine to the hero in Ginkgo? Is this girl reading a book to see demons? Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 252. Chapter 245-243. Dao Yuan, then you can't scold me when you hit me. In the quiet private room of the tea house, the steaming teacup exudes the mellow aroma of tea, mixed with the sandalwood in the air, which makes people's complicated thoughts settle a lot. Chen Li quietly looked at the steaming teacup in front of him, his mind still echoing what Yu Fiheng just said. I don't know if she did it on purpose or accidentally. Is it because she is reading a book to see the devil, or she has other thoughts, but compared to Su Jinglei, who is known as a talented woman, Yu Fiheng seems to be more in line with the image of a talented woman. Yu Fiheng's ears hidden in her black hair were slightly red, and she subconsciously raised her hand to touch her earlobe. The round earlobes were white and rosy, attracting Chen Lian's eyes, but he only glanced at them and looked away. It would be rude to look at it for too long. Yu Fiheng also noticed Chen Lian's gaze, and wanted to put down her hand, but her slender fingers pushed her hair behind her ears, exposing her beautiful ears. Chen Lian's eyes narrowed slightly. Since Yu Fiheng was so generous, why should he hesitate to look at her more? Yu Fiheng picked up the teacup and took a sip. She noticed Chen Lian's gaze from the corner of her eye and turned her body slightly to the side. Yu Fiheng didn't know what she was thinking. She seemed to really regard herself as the heroine in the book. She wanted to show her best side and make up for the sad ending in the book. The sun shines through the wooden partition window of the private room, and the dazzling light spots shine on the side of Yu Fiheng's face. Her earlobes sparkle in the sun like wearing diamond earrings. Chen Lian's eyes stayed there for a while before he looked back, picked up the teacup and drank the warm tea in one gulp. This way of drinking Niuyan did not make Yu Fiheng feel vulgar, but instead felt that he had some real temperament. The male protagonist in the book is also such a person. He looks weak and bookish, but in fact he has the character of a child of the world. The two of them sat there quietly drinking tea without saying anything, only making brief eye contact when their eyes occasionally touched. But neither of them felt bored, enjoying the sunshine that was broken into pieces by the wooden windows, and enjoying the silence at this time. It's like sitting on a meadow full of flowers, feeling each other's fresh heartbeats. There is no charming ambiguity, only the gradually fitting aura lingering between the two. I don't know how long it took, but the tea in the teapot got cold. Yu Fiheng looked at Chen Lian and said softly, "I want to hear you say ginkgo ginkgo again." "How about changing the name, Love Has an Afterlife?" Chen Lian thought of the movie made by Yu Fiheng and thought of this more direct name. Yu Fiheng repeated in a low voice, "Love has an afterlife." Chen Lian didn't wait for Yu Fiheng's answer before he started telling the story he had already told. Yu Fiheng was also attracted by Chen Lian's voice. She held her chin and looked at him quietly, at his black eyes, at his high bridge of nose, and at the light spot falling on his sexy collarbone. Chen Lian's image slowly turned into the protagonist in the story in Yu Fiheng's eyes, the character in the story that made her cry and laugh. She seems to like him. This thought, which she felt was a bit ridiculous, flashed through Yu Fiheng's heart, but it grew and spread in her heart like a weed. When Chen Lian came to the end of the story and turned into a ghost under the ginkgo tree and waited for the centuries-old male protagonist to disappear, a tear fell from the corner of Yu Fiheng's eyes and dripped down his beautiful chin onto the table. The moment the crystal tears fell on the table, they shattered into flashes of light all over the place. At this moment, Yu Fiheng felt that she was finished. She suddenly wanted to leave here and did not dare to look into Chen Lian's eyes again. Chen Lian looked at the tears falling on the table and raised his hand to gently wipe away Yu Fiheng's tears from the corners of her eyes. Yu Fiheng was startled and jerked back to avoid Chen Lian's fingers. She grabbed her bag in a panic and stood up, saying, "I have to leave first." After saying that, he opened the door of the private room and ran out, leaving Chen Lian sitting there alone. Chen Lian picked up the cup and drank the long-cooled tea. He pressed his fingers on Yu Fiheng's teardrops on the table and gently drew a circle with a gap. After sitting in the private room for a few more minutes, Chen Lian stood up and left. When he walked out of the tea house, the hot summer sunshine had become milder, and the sunset was rising on the horizon. Chen Lian squinted his eyes and walked towards the sunset. When Chen Lian's figure disappeared at the corner of the street, a hurried figure ran into the tea house from the other side of the street. Under the flying long hair was Yu Fiheng's delicate face. Chen Lian stepped on the afterglow of the setting sun and missed a girl running towards him. But sometimes missing it will make people more unforgettable. Yu Fiheng looked at the empty private room, her eyes full of loss and regret, and she suddenly stopped as her eyes swept across the table. There was a very faint mark on the smooth tabletop. Yu Fei-hung remembered that it was where her tears fell, so she walked over and took a closer look. Under the sun, she could see clearly that it was a faint circle, but it was missing a mouth. Yu Fei-hung stretched out her fingers and pressed on the gap, and her slender fingers just filled the round gap. As if wearing a ring, Yu Fei-hung suddenly smiled, feeling very happy that he came back to see the scene. Falling in love with someone is sometimes so simple and so unreasonable. Now Yu Fei-hung is looking at her heart, regretting that she suddenly ran away before. Could he have misunderstood? Chen Lian didn't think too much about it at all. As a young and artistic young woman, anything she did was not surprising. Chen Lian went to the company to take over his shift early the next morning. Chen Myron had an appointment with some friends who were not at the company today. As soon as Chen Lian arrived at the company, he was caught by Gao Yuan. He was beaming and talking about how he met a director who wanted to film with her. "Teacher Chen, someone really asked me to make a movie." Gao Yuan was very excited. She liked the feeling of being in front of the camera. "What script and which director?" Chen Lian asked curiously, worried that he was a liar or something. Gao Yuan was stunned for a moment, stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and said, "I knew the director's name was Zhang Yang." He said the name of the script hadn't been decided yet. Zhang Yang? Chen Lian thought for a moment and guessed it should be the movie Love Malatang. However, Zhang Yang probably has not received investment from Rolling Stone at this time, and the filming of the movie will probably have to wait for some time. Without the support of the Rolling Stones, there would be no Rolling Stones music, and without Li Zhongshen, Zhou Huajian, and Zhao Chuan, this movie would be missing a lot of exciting highlights. Chen Lian looked at Gao Yuan and asked, "Then what did he say?" Gao Yuan smiled and said, "I just said that I was very suitable for a role in the script. I also said that this movie does not have a heroine and is composed of several stories. I am one of the heroines. Love Malatang didn't run away." Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "If it's true, you can give it a try." "Really?" Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian happily, couldn't help but jump up and said, "I can finally make a movie." Chen Lian looked at the happy Gao Yuan and smiled. He waited for her to get excited for a while before saying, "But whether it can be filmed depends on whether he is a liar or not. We don't even have a script, so we can't say." "Ah," Gao Yuan was dumbfounded. She looked at Chen Lian and said, "Probably not. I have nothing to lie to." Chen Lian rolled his eyes at her, maybe he didn't know how he looked. "If he was really a liar, what could he do to you?" "Of course he would lie to you. If he wasn't underage, Chen Lian would have wanted to lie to him." Looking at Chen Lian's expression, Gao Yuan giggled, but there was a hint of cunning in her eyes. "It's such a coincidence that I came here today. Mr. Chen happens to be away, so I can spend time alone with Chen Lian." Gao Yuan sat down next to Chen Lian and said, "Teacher Chen, but I have never studied acting. Can you teach me?" Chen Lian looked at her and coughed lightly and said, "I don't have time to teach you. Find an acting teacher to teach you." "Don't you have time now? Just tell me." Gao Yuan took the opportunity to hold Chen Lian's arm and shake it. "Really want to learn?" Chen Lian looked at Gao Yuan and asked. Gao Yuan immediately nodded and said, "Yeah. I really want to learn." "Okay, sit back first, and I'll tell you what performance is." Chen Lian took his arm out of Gao Yuan's hand and said, "Performance is also divided into systems and genres. Different systems have different characteristics." Gao Yuan sat next to Chen Lian, with her arms on her knees and her chin in her hands, looking at Chen Lian intently. "As for the system and genre he talked about, I didn't listen at all. Who is a serious person who studies acting? Is it necessary to learn acting? There is no day in life that is not acting." Chen Lian spoke for more than 10 minutes, looked at Gao Yuan who had been staring at him and asked, "Do you understand?" "I understand," Gao Yuan replied subconsciously. "Okay, then tell me what are the characteristics of Brecht's system?" 2 minutes later, Gao Yuan hesitated for a long time without saying anything. Looking at Chen Lian's stern face, she said pitifully, "Teacher Chen, I was wrong." Chen Lian said helplessly and speechlessly, "Is this your attitude towards learning? You've been teaching me for so long, and you still want to make a movie like this? Let's give up this idea as soon as possible." "Then you punish me." Gao Yuan stretched out her hand in front of Chen Lian and said, "If you hit me, you can't scold me." "Chen Lian, why aren't you 18? Otherwise, I will have to teach you a lesson with a stick. Let you know the dangers in adult society." Compared with Gao Yuan, who is not yet mature, Chen Lian prefers to get along with a girl like Yu Fiheng who is ready to blossom. "At least I don't have to worry so much. I'm afraid that the police will come in and arrest me." Gao Yuan looked at the reddish palms, glanced at Chen Lian's eyes with her peripheral vision, and snorted softly in her heart, "She really likes this kind of thing, the magazine really doesn't deceive me." "Teacher Chen, will you come to the company tomorrow?" "Not coming." "Oh, then can I go to your house to learn acting from you? You are the best among the people I know." "Don't come, I'm afraid you'll give me lessons." "How could it be? If I disobey, you can slap my palm and I will be very good." Seeing Gao Yuan's well-behaved face, Chen Lian felt like he couldn't stand it anymore. "I recited the criminal law silently in my mind before I stopped my evil thoughts. This girl is simply harmful, why would she seduce someone at such a young age? Will it increase the crime rate in Beijing?" Chen Lian even doubted whether Gao Yuan was sent by someone else to deliberately set a trap for him. Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian who became serious, and put away other thoughts and listened to his lecture carefully. But when Chen Lian asked her to answer questions, Gao Yuan still couldn't answer many questions. His white and tender little hands would always reach out to Chen Lian as soon as he made a mistake. Chen Lian felt that the eagerness to try in his body was becoming more and more obvious, so he found an excuse to slip away from the company that afternoon. If Gao Yuan stayed any longer, she would make another deliberate mistake, and she would be ready to let Chen Lian hit her on the soles of her feet. After Chen Lian came out of the company, he breathed a long sigh of relief, secretly took note of this grudge, and prepared to pay it back next year. Gao Yuan must know how scary Teacher Chen is when he is strict. "Your butt is swollen." Girls of this age are really fierce, which also gives Chen Lian a headache. If he is not careful, he will be on the edge of danger, which is far less relaxing than chatting with Yu Fiheng. At night, Gao Yuan was lying on her bed, raising her hands to the lamp and looking at her hands. She remembered the tingling feeling when Chen Lian slapped her palms during the day, and her heart became itchy. Girls of this age may be the most sensitive time, both physically and psychologically. Gao Yuan looked at her white palms, giggled, turned over and fell asleep wrapped in a blanket. At night, the lights were still on in Chen Lian's study. He was sitting at his desk drawing with a pencil when suddenly his cell phone beside him rang. Chen Lian took it over and took a look. He found that it was Li Dabai's call and picked up the call. "Teacher Chen, I didn't bother you, did I?" Li Dabai's voice sounded a little tired. Chen Lian asked while drawing, "No, what's wrong? Did something happen to the crew?" "Nothing happened to the crew," Li Dabai first explained before saying, "It was because the audit found many problems." Chen Lian stopped the pen in his hand and asked, "What is the specific situation?" "The premium for many things purchased by the crew is too serious," Li Dabai said with some resentment. "It costs more than 100 yuan a month to rent a costume, which is enough to buy one. There are also some props that I bought, which cost only a few yuan, but they have doubled. The food standard is 5 yuan per person per day, and the food is not as good as a 3 yuan lunch box." Li Dabai talked about a lot of questions in one breath, and Chen Lian listened without interrupting. He was no stranger to this kind of operation. This happened to him when he was in the drama troupe in his previous life. The above allocations will always be used for certain purchases in various aspects, and in the end less than half of the actual money will be spent. After Li Dabai finished speaking, Chen Lian asked, "Did Zhang Quilai come to you and tell you whether the funds behind the crew are sufficient?" "No," Li Dabai thought of something again and said quickly, "but Deng Ji and the crew asked for leave yesterday, and they should be in the capital today." Chen Lian frowned. Why did Deng Ji take leave to return to the capital at this time? To raise funds or continue to focus on himself or Chen Myron? Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, "Okay, I understand. You can continue to check. By the way, pay attention to the current shooting progress and calculate how much funds will be needed to complete the shooting." "Okay, I understand." After Li Dabai finished speaking, he took a breath and remembered that Chen Lian was going to Singapore, so he immediately asked, "Teacher Chen, can I still follow you to Singapore next month?" "Yes, you can come back as soon as you finish the investigation," Chen Lian replied, chatting with Li Dabai for a few more words before hanging up the phone. Chen Lian turned the pencil in his hand, wondering what Zhang Quilai meant by asking Deng Ji to come back. Was he really planning to mess it up? At night, most people can't help but have various thoughts or longings, and Yu Fihung is also missing them now. She was going back to the United States in 2 days, and it would take several months before she could come back. She wanted to see Chen Lian again before leaving. After Yu Fihung hesitated for a long time while holding the phone, she finally pressed the dial button. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 253. Chapter 246-244. Poisonous oleander. In the quiet night, in the brightly lit study, the tip of the pencil made a rustling sound on the white paper. Chen Lian was hunched over his desk and sketching intently. The pencil drew beautiful lines, forming a minimalist interior design drawing on the paper. What Chen Lian painted was the art space he conceived, and it was finally time for this project to be launched. Wang Zuxian and Cheng Shifen had already called him to tell him that the property in Xiangjiang had been rectified and they were waiting for Chen Lian to go to Xiangjiang to officially start work. In addition to drawing design drawings, Chen Lian also has meetings with young artists in Beijing in the studio these days, hoping to reach cooperation with them and bring their works to Hong Kong. However, the specific work would be very troublesome to execute. It took Chen Lian almost half a year to complete this matter, and the art space would be officially unveiled when the 97 Xiangjiang returned. It can be regarded as a celebration of the return of Xiangjiang. The rustling sound of painting in the room suddenly stopped. Chen Lian saw that the pen tip was no longer sharp. He was about to pick up the utility knife to sharpen the pencil when his cell phone rang. Chen Lian put down the pencil in his hand, took a look at the phone, moved his eyebrows slightly and pressed the answer button. After Chen Lian answered the phone, he said hello and said no more. Yu Fihung, who was on the other end of the phone, suddenly felt a little nervous after the call was connected, and didn't know what to say. There was only a faint noise from the receiver, which made the short silence feel extra long. Yu Fihung held the phone in both hands and bit her lip gently and said, "Are you there?" "I am here." Chen Lian's voice reached Yu Fihung's ears through the mobile phone, making her feel extremely calm, and all her original tension disappeared at this moment. "I'm going back to the United States the day after tomorrow." Yu Fihung finished speaking softly and waited quietly for Chen Lian's answer. As if the two had known each other for many years, Chen Lian said nothing else and directly asked, "Where are you?" "I'm at home," Yu Fihung replied quickly, and then gave her address. "I'll be there soon. I'm waiting for you." Neither of them cared that it was already past 11 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't say anything about what they were going to do when they met. It seemed that everything was settled in the brief silence just now. On the quiet street, the dim street lights kept retreating. Chen Lian sat in the taxi, looking at his palms stained with pencil dust, and smiled helplessly. Because I was so anxious to get out, I forgot to wash my hands. As for why he was so anxious, Chen Lian couldn't explain the reason. It seemed that he was angry at Gao Yuanyuan during the day and wanted to find a different kind of comfort. The car soon arrived at Yu Fiheng's home, which was in a community not far from the workers' stadium. The location was not particularly good, but the environment of the community was very good. Chen Lian followed the signs in the community and came downstairs to Yu Fiheng's house. He looked up at the lighted balcony on the third floor and happened to see Yu Fiheng on the balcony. Chen Lian smiled at Yu Fiheng in the light of the unit downstairs, just like the ghost hero standing under the ginkgo tree in the novel, smiling at the heroine who had long forgotten him. Yu Fiheng clearly saw Chen Lian's smile, and her originally calm heart suddenly beat faster. When Chen Lian's figure disappeared from the unit door, she came back to her senses. On the spacious balcony, there was a small table with a vase with 2 fresh oleanders in it. Yu Fiheng looked at the 2 gorgeous oleanders that were entangled together, took a deep breath and walked towards the living room. When she walked to the door and opened it, Chen Lian happened to walk outside. The moment their eyes collided, they never separated again, just like 2 oleanders in a vase on the balcony. The flower language of oleander is very interesting, representing false beauty. The beautiful pink flowers contain poison, representing the illusion of romance. The relationship between Chen Lian and Yu Fiheng is like an oleander. The illusory emotions derived from the novel are about to taste the poison contained in each other at this moment. When Chen Lian walked into the room and the door was closed, the room was so quiet that only the hot breathing of the 2 people could be heard. No need to say anything, the 2 of them hugged each other in a tacit understanding, looked into each other's lustful eyes, and kissed passionately. The overhead light on the ceiling emitted a soft light, and the shadows of the 2 fell on the ground and entangled together, and soon they were indistinguishable from each other. Yu Fiheng's shadow falls on the wall. Its outline is slender and sexy, forming a perfect curve, like a stretched bow. A pair of white hands grasped the edge of the sofa, her long black hair hung down and swayed back and forth, and her melodious cry was like a romantic serenade. Along with the dull beating sound, a unique rhythm is formed. After an unknown amount of time, a white and red foot dropped from the sofa to the ground, its toes slightly curled up as if enjoying the pleasure after the peak. Chen Lian tied up Yu Fiheng's long hair, exposing her beautiful earlobes, and raised his hand to gently wipe the sweat from her neck. Yu Fiheng lay on Chen Lian's body, looking at the pencil marks on his chest with blurred eyes. She couldn't help but snorted slightly, opened her red lips and bit the skin on his collarbone. The slight pain on the collarbone made Chen Lian couldn't help but pat Yu Fiheng lightly, making a crisp sound. Yu Fiheng raised his head and looked at Chen Lian, put his hands on him and sat up. He gently grabbed his waist with his little hands, then lay down again, letting out a contented sigh. The romantic and passionate night has not yet passed, and the serenade sounds again in the quiet summer night. It's just that this time it's more intense, and the dense drum beats bring deep soul-deep impact to Yu Fiheng again and again. After an unknown amount of time, one oleander on the balcony lost all its moisture and was quietly inserted into another oleander, losing all its vitality. But it is covered with dew and is bright and fresh. When the sky dimmed, Chen Lian left Yu Fiheng's house in the dim light of the morning. Yu Fiheng lay on the bed and wanted to sleep for a while, but she couldn't fall asleep. She was very tired but mentally excited. She was fascinated by her experience and feelings last night. I even had a bold idea in my mind, but thinking about my unfinished studies, I calmed down instantly. Yu Fiheng, who was tossing and turning and unable to fall asleep, looked at the ginkgo book on the bedside, and couldn't help but take it into his hand and read it. Only a few tens of thousands of words made Yu Fiheng so fascinated. The past few days of knowing Chen Lian were like a novel brought into reality. But Yu Fei-hung felt that it was not satisfying, and she suddenly really wanted to bring the novel into reality. Yu Fei-hung closed the book and put it on his chest, looked at the ceiling and murmured, maybe it can be made into a movie. If Chen Lian knew what Yu Fei-hung was thinking, he would definitely advise her to take action early, otherwise it would take more than 10 years for it to be made into a movie and no one would watch it. There was still a market for movies like this in the 1990s, but no one wanted to watch them 10 years later. Moreover, the censorship system in the 1990s was relatively less stringent. As long as it did not involve some sensitive topics like the sixth-generation directors, the film could be well publicized after its release. Of course, all this depends on Yu Fei-hung's thoughts. Chen Lian has no time to care about whether she wants to make a movie now. The TV series he invested in hasn't been finalized yet, and Zhang Quilai hasn't even called him to tell him what he's going to do next. Li Dabai also called and said that the crew did not have much money, and if there were more follow-up funds, the filming would be stopped in a week at most. Chen Lian went home at around 8 o'clock, took a shower and changed clothes, and came to the company. As soon as he entered Myron Chen's office, he saw a woman sitting opposite her. Chen Lian took a closer look and recognized that this woman was Deng Ji. After he nodded at her and sat down, he glanced at Chen Myron and asked, "Are you here to talk about Kangxi?" The moment Deng Ji saw Chen Lian, she had a bad feeling that the investment she came to make today might be in vain. Chen Myron nodded and said, "Yes, Deng Ji came here to talk about this matter, and you came before I even said it." After explaining to Chen Lian, Chen Myron looked at Deng Ji and asked, "Continue to tell me what the crew is going to do next." Deng Ji glanced at Chen Lian and hesitated before speaking out the plan they discussed. "The crew's funds are running low. Even if we speed up the filming process later, we will still need at least 6.5 million in funds." Deng Ji originally wanted to say 600,000, but because Chen Lian was there, he subconsciously said less than 100,000, so that this amount would not arouse Chen Lian's resentment. After hearing Deng Ji's words, Chen Lian and Chen Myron looked at each other. This sentence did not mention why the crew had no money, but corruption could not be brought to the table. Chen Myron thought for a moment, noticed that Chen Lian shook his head slightly, and then took the initiative to say, "Do you want us to continue investing?" Yes. Deng Ji nodded lightly and looked at Chen Myron and said, "The filming is almost finished now, and there is only a small amount of money left. If all the previous efforts are wasted, all the previous investment and efforts will be in vain." After hearing Deng Ji's words, Chen Myron was shaken in her heart. If the millions she invested before were wasted, she would be so distressed that she could not sleep for several days. Now that we have finished filming, we only need to invest another 500,000 yuan to complete the filming. It really makes Miss Chen very excited. Chen Lian looked at Beauty Chen's somewhat shaken eyes and was about to speak, but was preempted by the keen Deng Ji. Deng Ji looked at Myron Chen and said seriously, "Not only are the millions of investments in the early stage in vain, but the profits from the auction are also gone. A direct loss of 10 to 20 million every time." Originally, 6 million made Myron a little shaken, but now it has become 10 to 20 million, and she is even more anxious. This is the money for her son's milk powder. Just when Chen Myron was about to speak, Chen Lian coughed and interrupted her. Chen Myron immediately turned to look at Chen Lian, wondering what he wanted to say. Deng Ji also looked at Chen Lian and became nervous. She didn't know what was going on. Although she was several years older than Chen Lian, she felt pressure on him inexplicably. Chen Lian cleared his throat, looked at Deng Ji and said, "The contract signed at the beginning was for an investment of 6 million. Now the problem of insufficient money lies with you. This problem needs to be solved by yourselves. The company will not continue to pursue investment. If we can finish the filming, we will finish it. If we can't finish the filming, I will not pay attention to it. But I don't like people who don't act in accordance with the contract, and I don't like people who don't have the ability, people, who knows if there will be another 500,000 after investing 500,000. Chen Lian was not so direct. After all, Deng Ji was a woman, and he would not get angry with a woman. If Zhang Kuilai came today, Chen Lian would definitely embarrass him. But he was still angry. Why did he have the nerve to let his wife ask for money? If Chen Lian had no morals, there's no telling how Deng Ji could go back. You have to invest several 100 million in shares. Myron Chen, who originally wanted to agree, hesitated when she heard Chen Lian's words. She looked at him and was about to say something when she heard Chen Lian speak again. If Kang Zi dies, I will lose at most several million. It is not a big deal for us, but it is different for your husband. You have been in the capital for several years, and your life must be very difficult. King Xingqing cherish it? After Chen Lian finished speaking, he stood up and said to Beauty Chen, isn't there an advertisement to be shot today? Let's go over and take a look. After Chen Myron knew Chen Lian's thoughts, she no longer struggled. She stood up and said to Deng Ji, I listened to my husband on this matter. You can go back and find a solution with your husband. After talking, Chen Myron and Chen Lian went out. Deng Ji sat stupidly in the office and couldn't help but sigh. The last words Chen Myron said made her feel ashamed. Why is there such a big gap when they are both husbands? It doesn't matter if you are not as good looking as others, it doesn't matter if you are older than others, but none of them are rich. Not even 500,000. You have to ask for money yourself. Deng Ji gets angry just thinking about it. Outside the office, Chen Myron took Chen Lian's arm and asked, I really don't want to pursue the investment anymore. 500,000 is not much. I can make a lot of money after the filming is completed. It's not about money. You can't be taken advantage of. Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron and said, money is not the most important thing in the world, and it is also the easiest to get. Don't care so much. It's easy for you to say, so much money, Chen Myron muttered, feeling very distressed that so much money was going down the drain. Chen Lian said helplessly, if I gave this money, would you believe they would laugh to death behind their backs? I would rather lose money than become a joke. Hearing what Chen Lian said, Chen Myron thought for a while and it seemed that it was really possible. It seemed that she couldn't pursue the investment. Money is not as important as my husband's face. Chen Myron, who wanted to understand, hugged Chen Lian's arm and said with a smile, I know, it's just a few million, how can my husband's face be important? Hearing Mei Chen calling her husband, Chen Lian felt a little helpless. He could just call him at home. He had just called her husband in front of Deng Ji. How could he make good friends in the future if word spread about this? Deng Ji in the office knew that there was no hope of asking for money this time, so she sighed and took her bag and left. She was lucky today. At least she wasn't scolded by anyone. Deng Ji felt a little grateful for Chen Lian's demeanor. But Deng Ji is still angry with Zhang Kuilai in her heart. When you take the money, you take the lead, and when you ask for the money, let yourself take the lead. How can you be a husband like this? However, husband and wife are one, so the anger in Deng Ji's heart came and went quickly, and in the end she became angry with Zhang Xin. After being greedy for so much money, I am willing to spit out 100,000 yuan. Otherwise, there would be no need for her to lick her face and ask for money. The more Deng Ji thought about it, the angrier she became. She picked up the phone and called Zhang Kuilai back. The money has not arrived. Chen Lian said that the TV series will be aborted in the worst case. You tell Zhang Xin that he must take out the greedy money now, otherwise our efforts in the past few years will be in vain. After finishing speaking in one breath, Deng Ji hung up the phone, took her bag and got into a taxi that had just parked in front of the company. Gao Yuan, who got off the passenger seat, turned to look at Deng Ji, then happily ran towards the company without paying attention. Today I have to pester Chen Lian to give me lessons. Disobedient students will have their palms slapped. I hope teacher Chen can be more strict. I just don't know if Myron Chen came to the company today. If she came, would she be called Mr. Chen or Mistress? It's so exciting just thinking about it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu Xiaomao. Chapter 255. Chapter 247-245. Teacher Chen, I'm here to make up lessons for you. In the busy studio, the photographer is adjusting the lights. Today's model hasn't arrived yet, so the makeup artist has no choice but to act as a stand-in. Chen Lian turned to look at Beauty Chen and asked, "What advertisement are we filming today? Why isn't the model here?" "It's a chocolate advertisement." Chen Myron glanced at the time and said, "The model should be here soon, it's that girl Yuan Yuan." Chen Lian couldn't help but twitch his eyebrows. He now had a headache when he heard Gao Yuan Yuan's name. When Cao arrived, Gao Yuan Yuan ran in like fire. When she saw Chen Lian and Chen Myron standing together, her pace immediately slowed down a lot. Gao Yuan Yuan smiled sweetly at them, then stuck out her tongue at Beauty Chen sheepishly, and trotted to the makeup artist to change her makeup. Chen Myron looked at the innocent and lovely Gao Yuan Yuan and couldn't help but smile and said to Chen Lian, "This child Yuan Yuan is quite cute." He. Chen Lian sighed in his heart. You have never seen her look like that when she teases her intentionally. Otherwise, you could pull her hair and scold her. But this is a little secret between him and Gao Yuan Yuan. How could he tell Myron Chen? While Gao Yuan Yuan was putting on makeup, Chen Myron went to the photographer to discuss the content of today's shooting. Chen Lian turned his eyes to Gao Yuan Yuan, who was putting on makeup with some boredom, and found that she was secretly blinking at him. "Yuan Yuan, don't move, your eyelashes are stuck crookedly," the makeup artist said angrily to Gao Yuan Yuan, thinking that her eyes were uncomfortable. Chen Lian couldn't help but shook his head, warned Gao Yuan Yuan with his eyes, and went out with his cell phone. He had other things to do today. Deng Ji, who was on the other side, returned to the set by car that day. She didn't get any money for coming over this time, so she must go back early to discuss what to do. Deng Ji also took a luxurious flight, which only cost a few hundred yuan anyway, so she didn't care about the money. Deng Ji, who had just returned to the crew from the capital, was pulled by Zhang Quilai and Zhang Xin to ask questions before she could take a breath. Knowing that they were anxious, Deng Ji quickly repeated what Chen Lian told her. After Zhang Quilai heard this, he frowned and asked, "Did he really say that?" "Yes, they really don't care. Don't even think about it. He donated millions as soon as he said he would. He really doesn't care about money," Deng Ji said with a somewhat envious tone. "This drama is very important to us, and it is very important to others. I just use it to kill time for my wife." Speaking of this, Deng Ji glanced at Zhang Quilai and felt a little sad in her heart. There was a huge gap between the two women. She was really envious. Zhang Quilai was feeling worried while sitting on the chair. He turned to look at Zhang Ziyin and said, "What should we do now? If Chen Lian doesn't pay, we won't be able to shoot later." Zhang Xin smoked without saying a word. He really didn't want to pay. It was 800,000 yuan, not 80,000 yuan. The most important thing is that he can't get it out. He can't be allowed to sell the house. Zhang Xin also regretted that he spent the money so quickly. If he had known better, he would not have bought a car. Deng Ji looked at Zhang Xin, who didn't say anything, and felt very angry. She asked directly, "Director Zhang, the investors don't provide the money. Now we can only provide the money ourselves. Tell us how much you can contribute." Zhang Xin ignored Deng Ji, but turned to Zhang Quilai and asked, "Quilai, what do you think?" "What do I think?" Zhang Kuilai touched his shaved head for filming and said, I told you before, we have to make up the money ourselves, and we can still make money back after filming and selling the show. Zhang Xin sneered and said it easily. How much money would he get if the play was sold? He might not even get 400,000. Zhang Kuilai also saw what Zhang Xin was thinking. He pondered for a while and said, I can come up with 300,000 yuan here. You can come up with another 300,000 yuan. Let's finish the filming as soon as possible. For Zhang Kuilai, this drama is the hope for his rise. He is not a rich man like Chen Lian, and he doesn't care at all about losing millions. Although Luluakio made him popular, he is just a supporting role. If there are no subsequent works to keep up, he will soon lose his popularity. He is already so old, if he doesn't seize the opportunity, he will really have no chance. Zhang Kuilai now regrets that he made money from the crew, and now it seems that he shot himself in the foot. Zhang Xin pressed the cigarette butt in his hand and said, I should have accepted the investment from Superstar Company at that time, otherwise there would be so many things. Superstar Company is much easier to fool than Chen Lian. If Chen Miran had good conditions and was a member of the industry, Zhang Kuilai and the others would not choose to cooperate with Chen Miran. Is it useful to say this now? Zhang Kuilai held back his temper and looked at Zhang Xin and said, just say whether you can take the 300,000. I don't have 300,000. Zhang Xin looked at Zhang Kuilai and said, you can't let me sell the house. Deng Ji couldn't help but interjected, then how much can you get? Don't tell me 100,000. 150,000. That's too much. Zhang Xin took a step back and said. 150,000 is not enough to finish filming the rest of the scenes. Then delete part of it. The three people who were about to quarrel fell silent after the sentence came out. If you really don't have the money, you can delete part of it. Or if we shoot the last few episodes simply, we can save a lot of money. Zhang Kuilai thought for a while and said, this is the only way it can be done now. You take out 150,000 yuan, and I take out 200,000 yuan. I can save on the rest of the filming if I can. Then let's do it. I'm going to make new shooting plans now and try to keep expenses to a minimum. Zhang Xin went out after saying that. He and Zhang Kuilai were almost separated now. He just wanted to finish filming and leave as soon as possible. After Zhang Xin left, Deng Ji looked at Zhang Kuilai unhappily and said, why should we take out 200,000 yuan? Zhang Kuilai said angrily and loudly, he is the director. If we don't finish filming this film and have a good script, we can film it. But can we? If we don't do a little more tricks, all the hard work before filming will be in vain. Deng Ji, who was already feeling aggrieved, saw Zhang Kuilai talking to her so loudly, and immediately stood up and said, why are you yelling at me? You weren't the ones asking for money from black people, otherwise where would these bullshit things come from? Am I yelling at you? I'm trying to reason with you, Zhang Kuilai said, suppressing his temper. You are incomprehensible. Zhang Kuilai turned around and left after scolding him. He was already annoyed enough. He was not in the mood to quarrel with Deng Ji. He asked her to calm down for a while. But Deng Ji didn't think so. Seeing Zhang Kuilai's leaving figure, she angrily grabbed the ashtrays on the table and threw them away. I have suffered so much with Zhang Kuilai in the past few years, and I still have to take care of his ex-wife's children. Now being scolded for being unreasonable, Deng Ji immediately lay on the bed and cried aggrievedly. Some are happy and some are sad. Myron Chen in the capital is in a very good mood now. She just received a call from Zhang Xin, saying that she would definitely finish the film well. Chen Lian looked at the happy Chen Myron and said, Zhang Xin called you? Wasn't it Zhang Kuilai? No. Chen Myron shook her head and looked at Chen Lian and asked curiously, what's wrong? Is there any problem? Chen Lian smiled and explained, I guess they had a falling out. Zhang Xin is trying his best to remove himself. It's really possible. Chen Myron nodded subconsciously. Chen Lian looked at the people who had finished work in the studio and said to Chen Myron, "Okay, don't think about this problem. The commercials are finished. You go check it out and go home early. I have an appointment tonight and I will leave first." Chen Myron frowned slightly, looked at Chen Lian with some jealousy and said, "Isn't it just inconvenient for me during this time? You haven't been back to accompany me for several days. I'm busy with business and have made appointments with a few artists." Chen Lian rubbed Mei Chen's head and said, "I will stay with you after I finish my work for a while." After comforting Chen Myron for a while, Chen Lian left, but he didn't notice that Gao Yuan, who had finished shooting the commercial, ran out after him without taking off her makeup. When Chen Lian stopped a taxi and got in without saying anything, the door was opened again, and Gao Yuan smiled as she watched Chen Lian squeeze in. "Teacher Chen, I'm here to make up for you." Gao Yuan squeezed next to Chen Lian and whispered in his ear, "Master's wife didn't see you, don't worry." "Chen Lian, don't make it sound like it's an affair. Could you please get off the car?" Gao Yuan squeezed in. She would definitely not go down, and then followed Chen Lian all the way to the studio. Chen Lian looked at Gao Yuan who had been following him and asked helplessly, "Don't you have to go back to school?" "No, there are no classes today." Gao Yuan curiously looked at the courtyard of the studio, looking at the installation art inside and fiddling with the red silk thread with her hands curiously. "This is your wave work, I've seen it in magazines." Gao Yuan turned to look at Chen Lian with an expression that said, "I know you very well." Chen Lian didn't expect Gao Yuan to know this, so he nodded and said, "Yes, but I have an appointment today and I don't have time to ask you to perform. You should go back to school as soon as possible. You're busy with your business, I'll just take a look." Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian with a smile and said, "I'm here to feel the atmosphere of art too." Chen Lian really wanted to pry open Gao Yuan's head to see what was in her mind and whether she had watched too many Qianyao dramas. "Lian." Just when Chen Lian had a headache, several artists came outside and greeted Chen Lian with a smile. Their eyes stopped on Gao Yuan and asked curiously, "Isn't Dabai here? Have you changed your assistant?" "No, Dabai has something to go out of town." Chen Lian didn't introduce Gao Yuan's plans. He looked at them and said, "Come on, let's go in and talk." Chen Lian brought several artists into the room to talk about business. Gao Yuan walked around the studio boredly, then came to the reception room and sat in the corner watching Chen Lian chat with others. It's just that she didn't quite understand the content of the chat, about art support, art space, art downgrade, and artists' need to ensure their own survival. Although she didn't understand much, Gao Yuan had an unknown feeling. Looking at Chen Lian talking eloquently, she thought he was too handsome. If you have culture and connotation, your friends around you are all artists, so you shouldn't be too perfect. More than an hour passed unknowingly. When Gao Yuan felt that she was about to fall asleep, Chen Lian finally finished talking. "Let's have dinner together tonight," Chen Lian said to them with a smile. "No, what you said today inspired us a lot. We have to go back and think about it carefully, otherwise we will forget everything after drinking." Was he drinking alcohol or amnesia? However, they wanted to go back and think about it carefully, but Chen Lian did not persuade them. After sending them out, he came to Gao Yuan and said, "Everyone has left, so you can leave too." Gao Yuan rubbed her belly, couldn't help but yawned and said, "I'm hungry, can you treat me to a meal?" "Not good. Then I'll treat you to food." "Don't eat. Stewed. Barbecued. How about eating braised noodles? There is a braised noodles restaurant in front of our school that is very delicious." Chen Lian stared at Gao Yuan's young and tender face, and wanted to tell her that if you continue, I will eat you. Don't think that he doesn't dare to break the law and commit crimes. The braised noodles were not finished, and the distance was a bit far. In the end, Gao Yuanyuan took Chen Lian and raided the snacks in Huguo Temple. The sky was a little dark at night, and the air pressure was much lower. After Gao Yuanyuan ate the last piece of butter-fried cake, she said with satisfaction, "It's been a long time since I came to Huguo Temple to eat." Chen Lian glanced over and said, "It's going to rain. Let's go back early after eating. Let's go shopping for a while. It's very lively here at night," Gao Yuanyuan said nonchalantly. "No," before Chen Lian could say no, a heavy rain suddenly poured down, and huge raindrops fell instantly. The pedestrians on the roadside instantly became a mess, but the food stalls were not so panicked, and they all put up their awnings early. Gao Yuanyuan exclaimed, raised her hands to cover her head, and pulled Chen Lian to hide under the awning of the food stall. But when the two of them hid, they were already wet. Summer rainstorms are always so fast and urgent that people have no time to react. Chen Lian looked at Gao Yuanyuan, who was getting wet, and gave up his position to hide her under the awning, with half of his shoulders exposed. Gao Yuanyuan pursed her lips and looked at Chen Lian's expressionless face, feeling protected in her heart. Rain dripped down Chen Lian's hair, and his black hair hung down to block Chen Lian's eyes. Gao Yuanyuan stretched out her little hand to push Chen Lian's hair away, revealing his deep eyes. Those black eyes made Gao Yuanyuan's heart beat faster. She instantly regained her shyness as a little girl and couldn't help but lower her head. However, his eyes only moved down to Chen Lian's chest and stopped there. The rain-wet t-shirt clung to Chen Lian's body, revealing his perfect figure. Under the translucent white t-shirt, Chen Lian's toned muscles could be seen clearly, and Gao Yuanyuan could no longer take her eyes away. Gao Yuanyuan couldn't help but swallowed secretly, suspecting that the butter-fried cake just now was too sweet. Definitely not greedy. That's what her mind thought, but her body didn't. Gao Yuanyuan didn't know when she had raised her little hand and put it on Chen Lian's chest. Gao Yuanyuan clearly felt Chen Lian's strong heartbeat in her palms, as well as the temperature from his hot chest. "Let's go home," Gao Yuanyuan suddenly raised her head and looked at Chen Lian and said. The sound of heavy rain falling on the ground was thick and noisy. Chen Lian didn't hear clearly what Gao Yuanyuan said. He lowered his head and looked at her and asked, "What did you say?" Gao Yuanyuan met Chen Lian's gaze, mustered up the courage to stand on tiptoes, kissed Chen Lian quickly on the lips, and shouted loudly, "I said let's go home." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 256. Chapter 248-246. What should I do if I kick you? Dark clouds piled up in the gray sky, and dazzling lightning flashed from time to time. The white light flashed by lightning illuminated Gao Yuanyuan's face, and her wet hair was dripping with water, making her look particularly charming. Chen Lian looked at her upturned smiling face, and through her bright eyes he could feel the tension of anticipation in her heart. Gao Yuanyuan was accidentally knocked into Chen Lian's arms by someone hiding from the rain behind her. The two people's bodies were tightly pressed against each other. It was as if their thin summer clothes could not be felt under the moisture of the rain. Chen Lian could clearly feel her elastic body and the girlish body fragrance coming from her body. Raindrops kept falling from Chen Lian's shoulders and flowing down his clothes. Gao Yuanyuan pressed her face tightly against his chest, feeling his suddenly accelerated heartbeat. Chen Lian coughed slightly and subconsciously moved back a little, otherwise Gao Yuanyuan would find out that he was embarrassed because of his heart-pumping blood. But Chen Lian didn't expect that Gao Yuanyuan moved a little closer to his arms and pressed against him. Just when Gao Yuanyuan was about to speak, her face turned red. Something strange is hot, jumping and irritating. This time, both of them stopped talking, and there was only an embarrassing silence. Chen Lian felt quite embarrassed, coughed, and said, "What? The rain won't stop for a while. It's easy to catch a cold if you keep being exposed to the rain. Go to the studio to take shelter from the rain." Gao Yuanyuan blushed and hummed, released her hand holding Chen Lian's waist, and grabbed his palm again. This time Chen Lian did not resist, but took the initiative to hold Gao Yuan's hand. It was so pretentious even though he was like this. At worst, he should pay attention to his standards. It's also good to cultivate. Chen Lian held Gao Yuan's hand, looked at her and said, "Let's go." After saying that, the two of them ran towards the studio in West Alley in the heavy rain. Gao Yuan was held by Chen Lian and ran in the rain, with a smile on her face like a bright flower. The downpour became less annoying at this time, and the sound of raindrops falling on the ground was like a romantic waltz. After a while, the two returned to the studio, but at this time they were soaked in the rain. Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian gasping slightly and twisting his t-shirt, then burst out laughing, stepped forward and hugged Chen Lian, stood up on tiptoes and kissed his lips. Chen Lian paused for a moment, and then responded to Gao Yuan proactively. "It's not against the law to kiss someone on the lips, and I'm fulfilling the rule of not going against a woman's will. That's what it means anyway, no matter whether it's right or not." The wet clothes did not make the two of them feel cold. Instead, they felt hotter and hotter, so hot that they wanted to take off their clothes. Chen Lian's hand subconsciously grabbed Gao Yuan's skirt, and he paused just as he was about to make a move. It wouldn't work if it went any further. Gao Yuan was already prepared, with her body in a position that would make it easier to take off her clothes, but she didn't wait for Chen Lian's next move. Gao Yuan opened her eyes and looked at Chen Lian in confusion. Chen Lian let go of Gao Yuan and said, "I forgot the clothes I didn't change. Just wait here and I'll find some clothes for you." After saying that, Chen Lian ran to the next door. Gao Yuan tilted her head and looked at Chen Lian's leaving figure, wondering what he was worried about. She had obviously hit herself, but before she even said she was nervous or scared about such a scary thing, he calmed down first. Chen Lian went to another room, calmed down a little, and found a few changes of clothes that he had left here before. After all, painting and playing with sculptures will always stain your clothes. It is normal to put a few clothes here, and it is not because you and Bai Qing exercise often. Chen Lian first changed into dry clothes. He originally wanted to give Gao Yuan's clothes from Bo Qing, but thinking that Bo Qing was very particular about this aspect, he picked up one of his own white shirts and ran back. There must be no pants left. Who would put so many pants here for nothing? It was definitely not intentional. Let's change the wet clothes first. I only have shirts here, Chen Lian said without blushing or heartbeat. Gao Yuan didn't think much, took the clothes and smelled them, with a faint smell of washing powder. You can change it, I won't look at it, Chen Lian said and turned his back, as if this was the only room in the studio. Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian who was standing there covering his ears, and thought to herself, it's okay if you don't turn around. He is indeed a duplicitous man. Gao Yuan put her shirt aside without any hesitation and unzipped the side of her skirt. Chen Lian turned to look outside the door, staring at the series of raindrops on the eaves, as if he didn't hear the sound of the zipper. Gao Yuan looked at Chen Lian who was pretending to be stupid. She curled her lips slightly and took off her wet skirt. The water-soaked clothes made a crisp sound when they fell to the ground. Chen Lian subconsciously caught a fair and sexy figure out of the corner of his eye. Noticing Chen Lian's little movements, Gao Yuan slowly took off her close-fitting clothes, revealing a very cute white bra and blouse. Chen Lian felt that his breathing was a little short, and he wondered if he had caught a cold due to the rain. Chen Lian looked at the pouring rain outside the house and muttered, "It's so annoying when it rains." "All right." Gao Yuan's voice sounded behind Chen Lian. At this time, she had put on a clean shirt. The large shirt only covered Gao Yuan's upper body. Her two long legs were exposed to the air and looked particularly tempting. Chen Lian turned around and took a look, then turned to look to the side and said, "There is a towel over there. You can wipe your hair." Gao Yuanyuan walked over, picked up a towel and wiped her hair, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Did you peek at me just now?" "No, don't talk nonsense, I'm not that kind of person," Chen Lian turned to look at Gao Yuanyuan and said. Gao Yuanyuan wiped her hair and walked up to Chen Lian, looked at his pupils that had not changed at all and muttered, "Your acting skills are really good. Otherwise, how can I teach you acting?" Chen Lian took the initiative to take Gao Yuanyuan's towel and wipe her hair. Gao Yuanyuan suddenly squinted her eyes comfortably like a kitten, stretched out her arms to hug Chen Lian and enjoyed him wiping her hair. "Aren't you afraid that I will eat you?" Chen Lian asked with a smile while wiping Gao Yuanyuan's hair. Gao Yuanyuan raised her head, looked at Chen Lian and said, "You're not afraid, and you don't dare." Chen Lian paused his hand and said, "Who says I don't dare? I just don't want to." "Why don't you want to?" Gao Yuanyuan stood on tiptoes, hugged Chen Lian's neck, tilted her head and looked at him and asked, "Are you worried that your wife will know?" Hearing the word master's wife, Chen Lian couldn't help coughing, covered Gao Yuanyuan's face with a towel, wiped it twice and said, "Don't scream, where did the master's wife come from?" "Isn't it beautiful, Chen?" Gao Yuanyuan shook her head, exposed her little face from the towel and looked at Chen Lian and said, "She is pregnant. That's not a mistress." "It doesn't matter if she's not married." Chen Lian wrapped Gao Yuanyuan's hair in a towel and said, "I won't get married." Gao Yuanyuan understood what Chen Lian said, but she didn't quite understand what he was doing. Why would she have children if she didn't want to get married? Chen Lian didn't bother to explain the details. He just looked at Gao Yuanyuan and said, "But apart from the fact that we don't have a marriage certificate, our relationship is no different from a couple, so why are you so bold?" Gao Yuanyuan let go of Chen Lian, turned around with her hands behind her back and said thoughtfully, "There is no reason, it's just curiosity." "Curiosity killed the cat." Chen Lian raised his eyebrows and said, "You know curiosity kills the cat, but you still dare to get closer." "I've been like this since I was a child." Gao Yuanyuan loosened the towel wrapped around her hair, looked at Chen Lian and said, "And you are indeed worthy of being liked, isn't it okay?" Chen Lian smiled and said nothing. He always felt that Gao Yuanyuan was the female version of Cao. There are unknown hobbies and attributes deep inside. The rain has stopped. Gao Yuanyuan ran to the door barefoot, turned to look at Chen Lian and said, "But I can't go out like this." "Wait until your clothes are dry. There is a lounge over there. You can stay here for the night." Chen Lian bent down and picked up the clothes Gao Yuanyuan had changed, wrung out the water and hung them up. "But there is no way to wear it tomorrow." Chen Lian said to Gao Yuanyuan, "I will send you a new set tomorrow." "What size do you wear?" Gao Yuanyuan raised her hand, looked at Chen Lian and said with a smile, "Measure it yourself." Because his arms were raised, the hem of his shirt was also lifted up. Chen Lian glanced at it and turned his head and said, "No, I probably know what size you wear. The only thing I'm not sure about is the size of my underwear." I don't know if Gao Yuanyuan has developed well at this age. After Chen Lian cleaned up briefly, he said to Gao Yuanyuan, "You can rest, I'll leave first." "Ah," Gao Yuanyuan took Chen Lian's hand and asked, "Aren't you here tonight?" "I'm going home. I'm scared alone." "Then button it up and I'll take you home." "No, what if someone sees me?" "Trouble. If you weren't young, why would you be in so much trouble?" Chen Lian still stayed. In the brightly lit studio and on the small sofa in the lounge, Gao Yuanyuan pushed Chen Lian away fiercely and gasped, "I can't do it anymore, I'm out of breath." Chen Lian licked his lips, looked at her and said, "I saw you were so proactive before, I thought you were very skilled." Gao Yuanyuan blushed and said, "That was my first kiss. Who can compare with you?" Chen Lian glanced at the time and said, "Okay, it's still early now. Let me teach you how to act. When you go to act in a movie, you will be a blockbuster. Then are you still slapping your palms?" Don't hit the palms of your hands, hit the soles of your feet. But, I'm ticklish. What if I kick you? Tie them up. Serious class. A small punishment is not illegal, right? After an acting class, Gao Yuanyuan was already lying on the sofa, staring blankly at the bright chandelier with a red face. The numbness in the soles of her feet made her brain almost lose the ability to think. The two little feet are red, the toes are curled together, squirming uneasily, and the two legs are bent together, looking like an oil painting under the warm light. Chen Lian put away his props, looked at Gao Yuanyuan with her legs bent, glanced at the faint watermark on the sofa, and couldn't help but smacked his lips. What a surprise! It's surprisingly tender. The little girl is really different from her good sisters. It's just a pity that she can't do many things, so she can only teach her to perform, and there is no chance to get started. However, he was able to record this scene. Chen Lian ran to the workshop and ran back with painting materials. It's been a long time since I drew figures. Chen Lian felt very inspired tonight. There was too much restlessness in his heart and he needed to draw to calm himself down. Gao Yuanyuan lay on the sofa and fell asleep. Chen Lian did not disturb her and sat quietly next to her, applying paint on the canvas. After an unknown amount of time, Chen Lian put away his paintbrush and looked at the sleeping Gao Yuanyuan and carried her to the bed. I lay on the sofa and turned off the light and went to sleep. It's just that the action just now woke up Gao Yuanyuan. She was like an energetic child who would always ask Chen Lian strange questions when he was about to fall asleep. Will that hurt? Meeting. Then when are you ready? Next year. It will take a long time. Are you waiting for my 18th birthday? I didn't expect you to be quite traditional. It was the first time that Chen Lian was called traditional, and he felt that this word was too contradictory when applied to him. In the darkness, Gao Yuanyuan turned sideways and looked at Chen Lian's blurry outline on the sofa, feeling quite lucky. Although Chen Lian was not a good man, at least he had his own principles. He didn't touch himself when he kissed him, and he was willing to wait until his 18th birthday. It's just that he always looks at me lustfully, and I really don't know when he can't help it anymore. Gao Yuanyuan felt as if she had found something fun. She laughed silently while lying on the bed. She wanted to play a game with Chen Lian to see who would lose in the end. When Chen Lian woke up the next morning, he saw Gao Yuanyuan sitting next to him, holding his chin and looking at him intently. The long sleeves of her shirt drooped on her white arms, and her bent legs looked as delicate as mutton fat jade in the sunlight. Chen Lian, who was already full of energy and blood when he woke up in the morning, immediately felt that his heart was pumping blood faster. Gao Yuanyuan glanced at it with a smirk, a proud expression on her face, which was very similar to an emoticon that Chen Lian saw later. Gao Yuanyuan stood up, tilted her head and stretched, her figure with the sun behind her back seemed to be glowing. Chen Lian couldn't help but sigh, what a sin. I'll go find the princess to sing later, otherwise I won't be able to do anything with peace of mind today. Gao Yuanyuan walked to the painting that Chen Lian painted last night, squatted down and looked at it for a long time, then turned to Chen Lian and said, "Can you give it to me?" Chen Lian sat up and nodded and said, "It was originally given to you. Have you given away many women?" "No, very few people can make me have the urge to paint. So, I'm the special one." "You can say that." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 257. Chapter 249-247. Gong Li's grievance. There are many hutongs in Beijing, but only a few are famous. Fangjia Hutong is quite famous, after all, several celebrities live there. The princess's home is not far from Fangjia Hutong. Strictly speaking, it is in an alley, but it extends longer. The last time Chen Lian came here, he was looking for a house, but in the end he didn't buy a courtyard house because the renovation was too troublesome. Chen Lian's impression of the Sihaiwan is very strange. It always feels a bit old-fashioned, but there is no way to deny its value and cultural significance. It was the first time for Chen Lian to come to the princess's house. The courtyard door was ajar but not closed. He pushed the door open and went in. He saw the princess coming out of the house wearing a pair of sports shorts and yawning. The appearance of Chen Lian made the princess' sleepiness disappear immediately. She stood under the eaves with her hands folded and looked at him. "Hey, the busy man finally remembered me." The princess was full of resentment towards Chen Lian. She followed him back from Xiangjiang and originally wanted Chen Lian to spend more time with her. Who would have thought that after returning, Chen Lian would not be seen for several days? Chen Lian looked at the princess's shining long legs, walked over and put his arms around her waist and said with a smile, "You have such a nice voice and it's not suitable to say such mean words." The princess struggled slightly and said unhappily, "Who made you not come to me for several days?" "Something happened these days, don't be angry," Chen Lian coaxed with a smile. The princess just complained, but she was not angry in her heart. "We are all busy people, and it is normal to gather less and stay away more often." After returning to the house, Chen Lian drank the sweet and sour plum soup and felt that all the heat had been driven away. It's obviously the end of September, but the weather is still unbearably hot. The princess was sitting next to her, applying nail polish with one leg bent, but the application was crooked when her hands shook. "Let me do it." Chen Lian took the nail polish and small brush from the princess's hand, pinched the sole of her foot with one hand, and began to apply it seriously. The princess smiled and looked at Chen Lian's serious look, and naughtily moved her toes to prevent him from applying nail polish so easily. "Don't move." Chen Lian raised his head and glared at her, and squeezed the soles of her feet slightly harder. The princess snorted with a nasal tone, but she still calmed down. She liked Chen Lian's gentle yet stern look. While applying nail polish, Chen Lian asked, "Did Chen Kexan come to see you later?" "Looking for it, he said that he has already negotiated with Jia He." The princess looked at Chen Lian and said, "You probably have no chance to invest." Chen Lian said nonchalantly, "Forget it then. By the way, have you decided whether you want to act or not?" "If you don't act, I won't go," the princess said without interest. Chen Lian said with a little pity, "Well, if you don't want to act, you won't act. You don't need it anyway. Don't you think it's a pity? You like this script so much, but you don't even have a chance to invest." After finishing speaking, the princess rubbed Chen Lian's head and said like a child, "Do you need sister to comfort you?" Chen Lian allowed the princess to mess up his hair and said without raising his head, "It's not a pity. Xiangjiang filmmakers are inherently xenophobic. I already knew that there were no opportunities to invest. Actually, there is no chance." The princess thought of the gossip she knew and said, "Jia He doesn't have that much money. If you really want to invest, there is no chance. How about I help you and ask again?" Chen Lian stopped what he was doing, raised the princess's feet to take a look, and then said, "No need, I spent money to make a movie for him, so I have to beg him." "Forget it, anyway, Chen Kexan's recent films have cost a lot of money." Chen Lian knew this. He almost bankrupted the company, otherwise he wouldn't have filmed Golden Branches and Jade Leaves 2 for Jia He. It's quite interesting to say that as a director, Chen Kexan also likes to be greedy for investors' money, but this time he rejected Chen Lian. I don't know if it's lucky or not. Chen Lian was lucky, but some people were not so lucky. In the hotel where the Kangxi crew lived, Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan lived together, huddled on the big bed without any image, whispering gossip. The food for the crew these 2 days has been very poor, and the rooms have been changed from 2 rooms to 1. Chen Zihan complained, saying that she did not want to live with Zhang Qingqing. He bullied her every night and she was almost ruined. Zhang Qingqing put her legs on Chen Zihan's belly, turned to look at her and said, "They have no money." The master won't invest, so they can only tighten their belts. Listening to Zhang Qingqing calling Chen Lian master, Chen Zihan felt awkward in her heart. She couldn't understand how Zhang Qingqing was turned into this by Chen Lian. Now he is still dealing with him in the same way. If he can't defeat her, he must make her call him master. Just when Chen Zihan was feeling angry, Li Dabai's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Ching Ching, Zihan, open the door, I bought you drinks. Hearing Li Dabai's voice, Chen Zihan jumped up immediately. Just as he was about to run to open the door, he heard Zhang Qingqing shouting from behind, clothes, no clothes. Li Dabai vaguely heard Zhang Qingqing's voice outside the door and didn't think much about it. It was normal for girls to live together without wearing clothes. 2 minutes later, the door opened. Li Dabai walked in with a drink. He looked at the messy big bed and said with disgust, "What are you two doing in the room? It's such a mess." Li Dabai put down the drink in his hand, raised his hand and fanned his nose and said, "The windows are not open, what a weird smell." Li Dabai's words made Zhang Qingqing and Chen Zihan blush, and they laughed and said that the weather was too hot and they just turned on the air conditioner without opening the windows. As Zhang Qingqing spoke, she also pushed back the quilt on the bed to cover a long small toy. Li Dabai didn't pay attention. He looked at them and said, "I will return to the capital tomorrow and let you know." "Are you leaving tomorrow?" Chen Zihan was a little disappointed. She originally thought that if Li Dabai couldn't handle it well, Chen Lian would come over in person. In that case, he could still take advantage of the situation and take advantage of Chen Lian's revenge on Zhang Qingqing. Li Dabai looked at Chen Zihan strangely and said, "Your role is almost over. Why are you so excited about the front and back legs?" Chen Zihan pursed her lips and said nothing. Zhang Qingqing next to her could guess what Chen Zihan was thinking, and she snorted in her heart, thinking about punishing her later. Li Dabai noticed the subtle feelings between Chen Zihan and Zhang Qingqing, and couldn't help but sigh. It's strange that these two women haven't fought yet. Fight? Of course they had fought. The two had just fought an hour before Li Dabai came. Okay, let's not say so much. Let's go out to dinner together tonight. I'll treat you, Li Dabai said generously. Dabai is a generous and wealthy girl, otherwise she wouldn't have become Chen Lian's assistant. This is called a pattern. At the entrance of the hotel, Zhang Quilai bought 2 box lunches and was walking back. He felt very uncomfortable when he saw 3 girls entering a big hotel talking and laughing. He used to go to that restaurant every day, but now he can only eat box lunches. He originally planned to pay 200,000 yuan, but that bitch Zhang Xin suddenly changed his mind and said he could only pay 100,000 yuan. Zhang Quilai had no choice but to break his teeth and swallow it. He hated Zhang Xin so much in his heart. Zhang Quilai sighed and hurried back to the room with his lunchbox. However, Zhang Xin didn't care about this situation. He did it on purpose, and he also revealed it to Chen Myron. He had no other intention, just wanted to tell Chen Lian that he and Zhang Quilai had broken up, and he could use it with confidence in the future, and he would never collude with Zhang Quilai again. The most important thing is that Chen Lian would rather the drama abort than make additional investment. To a certain extent, Zhang Ziyan realized Chen Lian's toughness and was afraid that he would pursue responsibility later and give himself a pair of silver bracelets. Chen Lian didn't have time to think about these issues at this moment. He was busy stacking good luck buffs for himself. The princess's red toenails were looming in the black stockings, and Chen Lian couldn't help but grab them in his hands. "Why do you like my legs and feet so much?" The princess rubbed her toes on Chen Lian's legs and said, "They said they would take me home to sing, but now they won't let me sing." Chen Lian listened to the princess's lazy and ethereal voice, grabbed her ankle and pulled her in front of him and said, "I will let you sing now, all high notes." The princess snorted, stretched out her legs to step on the spot where Chen Lian needed to be marked, swayed her little feet flexibly and said, "It doesn't matter who sings. Then sing along. This good luck buff must be topped up today. Chen Lian will still be of great use in 2 days. After stacking buffs for 2 days in a row, Chen Lian felt that he was extremely lucky now, so he boarded a plane to Singapore with Li Dabai, who had just returned that day. Chen Lian started to get nervous on the plane, which made Li Dabai baffled. She still doesn't know why Chen Lian went to Singapore. If you were just meeting the Queen, you wouldn't be so nervous. There must be something fishy that you don't know about. Li Dabai was extremely curious. She knew almost everything about Chen Lian now. She even knew who Chen Lian's good friends were. Now she didn't even know the reason why Chen Lian came to Singapore. It was so mysterious that she was extremely curious. When the plane landed in Kuala Lumpur, Chen Lian became even more nervous, which made Li Dabai also nervous. "Teacher Chen, what's wrong with you?" Li Dabai asked, carrying his luggage and following behind Chen Lian. Chen Lian turned his head and glanced at Li Dabai before remembering that he hadn't told her what he was here for. Chen Lian looked at her seriously and said, "Dabai, I'm going to be a father." Li Dabai was stunned for a moment and said, "I know, but isn't Mrs. Chen only 6 months old? Are you getting nervous so early?" Chen Lian shook his head and said, "It's not Beauty Chen." "Not Beauty Chen?" Li Dabai didn't turn around for a moment, then suddenly realized, looked at Chen Lian in surprise and shouted, "The Queen is also pregnant." Chen Lian was quite nervous at first, but was left speechless by Li Dabai's words about the Queen. "Goddamn Queen! I'm not the Emperor." Li Dabai felt inexplicably excited. He originally thought that Gong Li was overtaken by Chen Myron, but now it seems that he has been overtaken. He is clearly far ahead. With inexplicable excitement, Li Dabai followed Chen Lian to Gong Li's apartment in Singapore. In the apartment, Gong Li was sitting on the sofa, instructing the nanny to pack her things. It was 1 week before her due date, and she was going to be hospitalized. Gong Li glanced at the time and couldn't help but cursed in a low voice, "You idiot Chen Lian, why haven't you come yet?" Ding dong. The doorbell suddenly rang in the room. Gong Li immediately looked up at the door and shouted to the nanny, "Aunt Chiu, go and open the door." Okay, the nanny immediately put down what she was holding and trotted to open the door. Gong Li stood up with one hand on her waist and the other on the armrest of the sofa. Looking at Chen Lian, who had just come in, she could no longer control the grievance in her heart. She couldn't help but cursed in grievance, "Why did you come here?" Seeing Gong Li like this, Chen Lian felt that his heart was about to melt. He didn't even bother to change his shoes and ran over to help her and said, "I'm sorry, I'm late." Gong Li hugged Chen Lian while scolding him aggrievedly and hitting him with her hands. Chen Lian gently hugged Gong Li and coaxed her in a low voice. He also knew that what he had done was inappropriate and he had not taken good care of her for so long. Li Dabai, who had changed his shoes in the living room and came in, looked at the scene and felt that his eyes were slightly red because he felt so touching. He couldn't help scolding Chen Lian along with Gong Li. Chen Lian coaxed Gong Li for a long time to calm her down, but now she has become extra clingy, and she doesn't want to let go of Chen Lian's arm. Li Dabai looked aside awkwardly for a while, then took the initiative to help the nanny pack her things. More than half an hour later, a group of 4 people got on the hospital's special car and arrived at the hospital. The private hospital service in Singapore is still very good, and the doctors and nurses are also very professional. They carefully stayed by the side during the whole process, and did not go out until Gong Li settled in the ward. Chen Lian looked at the luxurious room and nodded with satisfaction. It was much better than domestic hospitals. Li Dabai sat beside Gong Li's bed and peeled fruit for her, but his eyes kept wandering on Gong Li's belly. Gong Li looked at her and said with a smile, "Want to touch it?" "Is it okay?" Li Dabai immediately asked excitedly. Okay, Gong Li looked at Li Dabai with maternal eyes and said, "You will also have your own baby in the future." Li Dabai glanced at Chen Lian subconsciously, and then quickly looked away, fearing that Gong Li would misunderstand. Li Dabai giggled and carefully put his hand on Gong Li's belly. "Don't be so careful, you can touch her. She is dishonest inside." Gong Li looked at Li Dabai with encouragement. Li Dabai obediently stroked her gently, and felt that the place where his hand touched suddenly moved. He immediately raised his head and looked at Gong Li excitedly and said, "She moved." Chen Lian looked at Li Dabai, who was making a fuss, and said, "Don't be so loud, you'll scare the children." Li Dabai curled up his neck and stuck out his tongue in embarrassment, and then touched Gong Li's belly with a silly smile. "This is the child of Sister Gong Li and Teacher Chen. It feels so magical. It will definitely be a very beautiful baby in the future. No, it will be a very beautiful princess." Aunt Chu, the nanny, looked at the silly Li Dabai and wondered why she was so happy. "Why are you happy that your boss has a child with someone else? The current little secretary really has no ambition at all." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 258. Chapter 250-248. Dabai's trousers. In the clean and bright ward, the pale pink walls make people's faces look beaming with joy. Perhaps because of the specialness of the high-end ward, there is no smell of disinfectant that is customary in hospitals. There is only a faint fragrance of flowers, which makes people feel less nervous. Gong Li leaned on the bed, with a hint of grace on her plain face. Even if her hair was just tied up casually, it was still something that could not be ignored. She is very much like the media's evaluation of her, the mother of the earth. Gong Li pulled up her hair and looked at Chen Lian, who was in a daze, and said, "I want to drink water." "Well, it's still warm." Chen Lian came to his senses and stood up. "Warm. Good." Gong Li looked at the back of Chen Lian pouring water, and then she felt what a normal pregnant woman should experience. Although she wanted to have a baby and hid in Singapore alone, she still felt a little sad when she was alone. For 2 months, she particularly regretted being pregnant and complained to Chen Lian on the phone more than once. This was just the beginning. It was still too early to raise the child. Gong Li suddenly felt a little irresponsible. But when the child in her belly kicked slightly, she suddenly laughed again. She would definitely take good care of the child in the future. She was the mother of the earth. Chen Lian put the water in front of Gong Li and asked with a smile, "What are you thinking of smiling so happily?" "Your daughter is kicking me," Gong Li said, stroking her belly. Chen Lian put his hand on Gong Li's belly and said, "You must have asked me to pour water, which made my little cotton-padded jacket angry." You," Gong Li cursed with a smile, and laughed together with Chen Lian. Li Dabai, who had just come in at the door, looked at the scene and drooled with envy. When would it be his turn to see such a scene? Teacher Chen, please open your eyes and take a look. Look at this world, look at me. I will definitely be a generous and wealthy mother in the future. It will definitely make the child fat and white." Chen Lian and Gong Li were also worried about this problem at the moment, and they gathered together to discuss formulas to induce lactation. After Li Dabai stood aside and watched for a while, he reached out and broke off a banana, took 2 bites and went out. It's easy to get pink eye if you watch too much, so it's better to go shopping. After leaving the hospital, Li Dabai put on his sunglasses, held half a banana, and headed towards the mall with great pride. Gong Li stayed in the hospital for several days without any movement in her stomach. Chen Lian's little cotton-padded jacket didn't seem to want to come out to see anyone. The brightly dressed Li Dabai asked curiously while washing fruits for Chen Lian, "Teacher Chen, why is there still no movement? It's already the due date." Chen Lian took an apple and took a bite and said, "The due date was not written by the Jade Emperor. It is normal for it to be a few days late." Despite what Chen Lian said, he was actually a little worried about whether he, a person of unknown origin, would not be able to have children. Is the world trying to correct the historical line? Chen Lian's mind was in a mess, and he felt a little worried about gains and losses. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian in a daze, reached out and took the apple he had only taken a bite out of and started eating it himself. He said it was normal, but the word worry was written all over his face. Li Dabai swayed out while eating an apple, ran to Gong Li and said, "Sister, the freshly washed grapes are so sweet, you will be blessed if you have more children." Chen Lian came out and took one look at them before turning around and going to the doctor's office. He still felt a little uneasy and had to ask about the situation. Just when Chen Lian arrived at the doctor's office and before he sat down, he heard the bell ringing in the office. The doctor took one look and stood up immediately and said, "Mr. Chen, your wife is going to give birth." Chen Lian was stunned for a moment and before he could react, the doctor ran out quickly. "I'm a fool," Chen Lian immediately turned around and chased after him. When Chen Lian ran to the ward, Gong Li was pushed out, but she didn't seem to be in pain, which was different from what Chen Lian saw on TV. This immediately made him anxious, and he quickly grabbed Gong Li's hand and asked, "How do you feel? Does it hurt? Is it uncomfortable?" Chen Lian's series of questions made Gong Li feel his nervousness. Before she could open her mouth to speak, her body reacted and she frowned and snorted. "Mr. Chen, please give in. Now we need to enter the delivery room immediately to prepare," the doctor said quickly, then reassured, "Please believe in our hospital, everything will go smoothly." Chen Lian turned sideways, held Gong Li's hand and followed him outside the delivery room. He kept talking nonsense along the way, and he didn't know whether he was trying to appease Gong Li or himself. It wasn't until Gong Li was sent to the delivery room that Chen Lian was forced to let go and stay outside the delivery room. "Grandma, this is too nervous." Chen Lian feels that he has never been so nervous in his life. Originally he thought he wouldn't be so nervous, but who would have thought that at this juncture he still couldn't help but worry. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian walking around and didn't know what to say. He just looked at him and silently prayed for Gong Li in his heart. Time seemed to slow down at this moment, and Chen Lian walked around anxiously as if a century had passed. It wasn't until he heard the door of the delivery room being opened that Chen Lian suddenly stopped and looked back. A nurse looked at Chen Lian and said with a smile, "Mr. Chen, mother and daughter are safe." After hearing the words "mother and daughter are safe," Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief, swallowed and asked, "Where are they?" "It's still in the delivery room, I'll let you see it later, don't worry," the nurse said and went in. Chen Lian became anxious again outside. He had become a father, not a godfather but a biological father. Li Dabai saw that Chen Lian was still spinning around and couldn't help but said, "Teacher Chen, please stop spinning. I'm feeling dizzy." As if he hadn't heard anything, Chen Lian looked at Li Dabai and said, "Why didn't you let me see the baby after it was born? Do you think the hospital won't dump the baby?" Li Dabai, "It's hopeless. Let's take Teacher Chen to the psychiatry department on the 4th floor later." More than half an hour later, Chen Lian looked at the weak Gong Li and said, "Sister, thank you for your hard work." Gong Li snorted weakly, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Where is the child?" "Here, the baby has come to meet his parents." Two nurses came in from outside with the baby in tow. Chen Lian immediately ran over and looked at his daughter lying in the cradle. Just looking at the wrinkled newborn child, he couldn't help but frown. Why does he look like a pink little mouse? Where is the pink and jade carved little princess that we promised? Who hid it? But when the baby cried, Chen Lian immediately felt a strange feeling in his heart. This was his daughter. No more running. Hearing this sound is exactly the same as when I was a child. Li Dabai watched Chen Lian's changing expressions from the side and felt that it was really necessary to take Chen Lian to the 4th floor. Newborn children don't open their eyes so quickly, and they don't look good. Although Chen Lian kept mumbling, he couldn't stop the smile on his face. Gong Li leaned weakly on the bedside, looking at Chen Lian and the baby, her inner emotions overflowing from her eyes like a surging tide. When Chen Lian saw Gong Li crying, he immediately touched her face with concern, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and asked, "Why are you crying? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? I'll call the doctor." "I'm fine." Gong Li shook her head and grabbed Chen Lian's hand, turned to look at the newborn child, and carefully stretched out her fingers to put on the baby's little hand. The gap between the adult's hand and the child's hand was too big, and the baby subconsciously let go of his small palm and held Gong Li's fingers. At this moment, a family of three held hands and connected their hearts for the first time. Such a scene made Li Dabai couldn't help but pick up the camera he had prepared and record it. The temperature in Singapore in autumn was very good. A few days after the birth of the child, Chen Lian helped Gong Li sit on the balcony of the ward to bask in the sun. The gentle sunlight shining through the glass warms the body, making people want to sleep. Li Dabai in the ward was lying in front of the cradle, looking at the baby who was looking around curiously with her eyes open, then reached out and poked her face gently. After the baby opened his eyes, his appearance immediately soared by more than 10 levels, and his little face relaxed, and he really turned into a beautiful little princess. "Baby, I am your aunt, please remember me," Li Dabai whispered to the baby in a low voice, poking the baby's face from time to time with his fingers. The baby turned to look at the aunt, who was as white as himself, blinked his eyes and made a few babbling sounds, as if he was responding that he knew, and also seemed to be protesting against this unscrupulous adult for bullying him. "Little baby." On the balcony, Chen Lian looked at Gong Li and asked, "Are you going back to China after confinement?" Gong Li hummed and said, "I want to go back in 2 days." Chen Lian said with some worry, "Are you too anxious? Let's rest for a while before we talk." "It's okay. My body is recovering very quickly. I'll be fine in 2 days." Gong Li is homesick now and wants to go back to the capital and take her baby back to her real home. Chen Lian heard this and stopped trying to dissuade her. Gong Li recovered very quickly, but just in case, he still planned to wait for 1 more week before arranging to return to China. Confinement, half a month, even if it is less than a month, you should not be careless if you are in good health. A week later, Chen Lian and Gong Li took their baby, followed by Li Dabai, and boarded a plane back to China. Moreover, the plane was specially chartered and cost Chen Lian a lot of money, but it was all worth it. There is no one more important than a baby in this world right now, and only half of it is still in Myron's belly. A few hours later, the plane landed in the capital. Chen Lian and Gong Li, fully armed, pushed the stroller into the car arranged by Li Dabai. Chen Lian and Gong Li had no intention of exposing the birth of a child from the beginning, so they had to be careful. Otherwise, the media would be blown away if 2 public figures secretly gave birth to a child. Reporters will definitely be following you 24 hours a day, which will cause serious trouble. After getting in the car, several people breathed a sigh of relief. Li Dabai drove the car and deliberately found a topic and asked, "Teacher Chen, you are going to register for household registration later. Have you thought of the baby's name?" Hearing this, Chen Lian looked at the drooling baby and said with some confusion, "I have thought about several names but haven't decided which one to use. I always feel that none of the names are suitable." Gong Li couldn't help but rolled her eyes at Chen Lian and said, "Who asked you to name it? The child's last name is Mi, what do you want to name it?" Chen Lian suddenly became unhappy, looked at Gong Li and said, "Why? Why didn't you marry me? Dabai, turn around. Go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." Li Dabai subconsciously shrank his neck and glanced at Chen Lian and Gong Li through the rearview mirror. He still firmly grasped the steering wheel in his hand and did not turn around obediently. "How can you get married? Marriage is definitely not an option, it's just Chen Lian's rhetoric in order to win the naming rights. However, naming a child is indeed a big deal, and Chen Lian really hasn't thought about what it should be called. After all, you follow a person for your whole life, so you have to be cautious. Chen Lian doesn't want his future children to dislike the unpleasant name and pull out his own oxygen tube when he gets old. However, there is no rush to apply for the household registration. Chen Lian still has time to think about it slowly, and by the way, he will fight for the naming rights with Gong Li. After returning to the capital, Chen Lian and Gong Li both kept an unusually low profile and only had meals with relatives and friends in their new home. Chen Lian has very few relatives here, only his master, Uncle Chi, and his uncle's family who came here specially. Gong Li's side is much more troublesome. There are many relatives in the family, many people criticize Chen Lian, and more people want Chen Lian and Gong Li to get married. However, Gong Li made excuses to block them all, but Gong Li's parents were very angry, but for the sake of their granddaughter and the big villa, they still tolerated it. Chen Lian didn't dare to go to Gong Li's place these 2 days because he really couldn't stand the way his elders looked at him. Just hide if you can to avoid being forced into marriage. Chen Lian, who was hiding at home, was a little unaccustomed to not being able to see the baby. The human cubs looked so cute and easy to become addicted. Chen Lian, who was lying on the sofa in a daze, didn't notice that Li Dabai sat next to him and deliberately exposed his long legs. Li Dabai learned how to wear black stockings with jeans in Singapore. She knew Chen Lian's XP, so she would definitely attract him. Li Dabai secretly glanced at Chen Lian and found that he didn't notice his subtlety. He couldn't help but feel angry and wanted to go up and give Chen Lian a break. I am already 20 this year, when will I be able to live in a villa? Gong Li and Chen Myran both have children, when will I be able to have one? If you have children, don't you want to waste time? Are you still teacher Chen? Chen Lian thought for a while before he came back to his senses. When he turned around, he saw the silk in Li Dabai's pants. He raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Li Dabai's angry face. You have a bun in your mouth. Chen Lian reached out and pinched Li Dabai and said with a smile. Li Dabai glanced at Chen Lian resentfully and said angrily, Teacher Chen, do you think I'm ugly? Chen Lian smiled and said seriously, No, I think you are very beautiful. Li Dabai pulled up his trousers and put them in front of Chen Lian and said, Then why don't you touch me? Is there such a requirement? Chen Lian looked at Li Dabai's serious look, pinched her face with his hand and gently pulled it and said, Aren't you going to take the initiative? I am a man who likes to be passive. Nonsense. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian with disdain and said, You obviously take the initiative to seduce others. Chen Lian, I can't let this assistant go. He's out of his mind. He dares to slander himself. Knock her on the head. Although Li Dabai despised Chen Lian's words, he still sat astride the sofa and stretched his black stockings and white legs to Chen Lian's hand. Then you want to play? Please give me a name. None of the names I think of sound good. I'm so confused. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 259. Chapter 251-249. Bimax escapes. The light in the living room in the evening was not very bright. The autumn breeze blew in leisurely from the balcony, and the white curtains swayed and made a slight rustling sound. But if you listen carefully, something doesn't feel right. The sound of the curtains rubbing together doesn't seem to be like this. On the large sofa, Chen Lian looked at Li Dabai seriously and asked, Where did you buy these stockings? There seems to be no sequined stockings like this in China. I bought it in Singapore, Mr. Chen, please don't touch it, the sequins have all fallen off. Li Dabai put his legs together and twisted involuntarily. Ahem, I'm just curious. Chen Lian coughed awkwardly, raised his head and looked at Li Dabai and asked, How many pairs did you buy? Li Dabai suddenly blinked his eyes, leaned into Chen Lian's ear and said, There are many pairs and many styles and colors. Teacher Chen, do you want to see them? Chen Lian said seriously, I don't want to see it, but I am just curious about the textile technology. Li Dabai suddenly took back his leg that was held by Chen Lian, and boldly sat on his lap and said, then I will change my clothes every day for you to see, okay. You can have this. Chen Lian looked at the exaggerated curvature of Li Dabai's body and felt that the style of stockings was not that important. Dabai's name really doesn't come from white. His skin looks as white and moist as milk. Coupled with the fact that she was much taller than her peers, Chen Lian suddenly thought of the Scottish pastures. Don't say anything else. Chen Lian just wants to be a happy rancher. Chen Lian had not been so crazy for a long time. In the middle of the night, he hugged Li Dabai and enjoyed the gentleness of the sea, and fell asleep deeply. The next day, Chen Lian released the pigeon that director Yang had been drinking with. On the third day, Chen Lian released the pigeon invited by Huo Jiankai for the audition. On the fourth day, Li Dabai limped away in his car. When driving home, Li Dabai kept muttering in the car, you are born in the year of the ox, he is born in the year of ox. How can you keep falling like this? But thinking about the craziness of the past few days, Li Dabai felt so excited that he almost burst into tears. No wonder teacher Chen has so many good friends. How awesome! Chen Lian stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his collar, looked back at the messy room, and couldn't help but sigh. It's been too indulgent these days. You shouldn't have fallen so low. Chen Lian glanced at the time, and now he had time to sort it out. The time for making an appointment with Huo Jian was coming soon. Half an hour later, Chen Lian saw Huo Jiankai, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Looking at the script he handed over, he couldn't help but frown. The title of the script also feels too perfunctory. Singer Huo Jiankai planned to invite himself to fake cry. But joking aside, Chen Lian was quite serious when he read the script. After spending more than 20 minutes reading the script, Chen Lian once again felt that it was perfunctory. This script is not as good as a winner. There is no reason why Huo Jiankai will stretch his hips more and more. Lao Huo, isn't this script a bit inappropriate for me? And it's quite different from your style. Chen Lian still took care of Huo Jiankai's face. After all, he hadn't drank yet. What if he got angry and drove away? Huo Jiankai smiled awkwardly and said, actually, the style is very close to mine, but the story is indeed not that exciting. It's not that this script is bad, but in Chen Lian's opinion, Huo Jiankai should be better. Chen Lian thought for a moment and asked, who are you going to find for the other two characters? Huo Jiankai knew that Chen Lian was a little interested, so he immediately said, He Qing, what do you think? I'm going to find another actor, Hu Jun. Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, why are you looking for He Qing? I think Su Qing is not bad either. Su Qing is not good. Her acting skills and age are not suitable. Huo Jiankai immediately shook his head, but thinking of Chen Lian's special mention of Su Qing, he immediately added, but another role can be given to Su Qing. After Huo Jiankai finished speaking, he asked in a low voice, why did you get together with Su Qing? Chen Lian, this is misunderstood. It's really confusing. Have you reached this level now? Looking at Huo Jiankai, who looked envious and gossipy, Chen Lian said angrily, forget it, I just mentioned casually that it's your business to choose actors, but I suggest you change the script to address social issues. Add to that the prejudice. If you think about the status of rock singers today and the prejudice against them in society, this is a good starting point. Love and love will only limit your strength, Director Huo. Huo Jiankai was very happy when Chen Lian called Director Huo. He thought for a moment and said, then I'll go back and study the script carefully. I'll come back to you after I finish revising it. After the two talked about the script, they then discussed the Golden Rooster Awards. There were still more than 20 days until the Golden Rooster Awards, and Huo Jiankai was looking forward to it. It's definitely no problem to win an award. Chen Lian looked at Huo Jiankai and said, at least win a director's debut. Huo Jiankai laughed loudly and said, "It's pretty much what I thought. I was wondering if you could win the prize." "I don't know, whatever, I finally understand. People like me have no chance of winning awards. You can't win awards for being handsome, and if you want to win awards in China, it's difficult for movies with general themes, and it's even harder if you don't have connections." Chen Lian remembered that the Tokyo Film Festival was about to start the day after tomorrow, and wondered if there would be anything gained at the Tokyo Film Festival. The Tokyo Film Festival has only been held a few times, and this year is only the 9th. However, it is still a very influential international film festival in Asia. Chen Lian thought about it for a moment and didn't bother to think about it. He drank and got Huo Jiankai drunk first. After eating and drinking with Huo Jiankai, Chen Lian got him drunk and ran away, but he didn't forget to call his wife Su Xiaoxiao. Thinking of Su Xiaoxiao's temper, Chen Lian couldn't help but sympathize with Huo Jiankai. He didn't know if he would be beaten when he returned home. Why would he get married in a peaceful way? But when Chen Lian stood alone on the roadside and took a taxi, he began to envy Huo Jian again. At least he had someone to pick him up. "I don't know where my little assistant has gone. Mr. Zhou is also filming a TV series and is away from the capital. It is inconvenient for Chen Miran to be pregnant. Gong Li is taking care of the child at home. Bai Qing and Ji Fa have gone to England again. The princess has returned to Xiangjiang. Lu Xiaoli just went to the United States and has not returned yet, and Ning Jing is in Shanghai. It's so lonely to be alone at night. It's time to find a new assistant. Only one Li Dabai is not enough. Go back to the studio and paint. Loneliness is the life of an artist." In the next 2 days, Chen Lian was painting in the studio and basically didn't go out. It wasn't until the 3rd day that Li Dabai took the initiative to come over. "Teacher Chen, we are leaving for Japan." Li Dabai is still a little scared when he sees Chen Lian. He has just recovered a little in the past 2 days and is really worried that Chen Lian will keep her from going out for a few more days. Although it is exciting, it should not be too exciting. Li Dabai was actually quite happy. She could feel that Chen Lian was obsessed with her body. Otherwise, why would he not go out for several days? Chen Lian looked at Li Dabai, who only dared to show up after 2 days of rest. He walked over and asked seriously, "What time is the flight?" "The flight is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There are still 4 hours left. I have already packed my luggage. It's still early then, why not us?" "Don't want." Li Dabai felt that he had rejected it too quickly, and said embarrassedly, "The time is too short, and you are always endless. Let's talk about it when we get to Tokyo." Well, Chen Lian feels that his image in Li Dabai's heart is completely gone. How can we maintain our identity as an artist in the future? On the plane flying to Tokyo, Chen Lian held his chin and looked at the white clouds outside the window, and suddenly thought of Crayon Shin-chan. Xiaoxin is a child with good aesthetics. Chen Lian likes those Showa goddesses that Xiaoxin likes very much. The Showa era was the last glory of the Japanese entertainment industry, but it is a pity that it has come to an end now. Shizuka Kudo, Noriko Sakai, Mie Nakayama, Yasuko Sawagaki, Akina Nakamori, Makoto Izawa, Megami Oishi, Kyoko Fukada, Nanako Matsushima, Yuki Uchida. There were so many beauties in the Showa era. It was really a glorious era. It's a pity that this era has come to an end and only a little bit is left. But Chen Lian wanted to catch this tale, just to see if Crayon Shin-chan was bragging. You should be able to see them at the Tokyo Film Festival this time. I don't know if they are really good looking. Li Dabai looked at Chen Lian in a daze and couldn't help but rub his leg against him and asked, "Teacher Chen, why are you laughing?" Now that Li Dabai is brave enough, he will take the initiative to rub his legs against him. In the past, he only asked and dared not move his hands or feet. Chen Lian glanced at her, turned his head and didn't want to talk to her. He even disliked him and avoided him. Why didn't you do this before you succeeded? Woman, you are playing with fire. Chen Lian thought of Yasuko Tomita's gentleness and thoughtfulness, and suddenly felt that a Japanese girl was better. Seeing that Chen Lian was angry, Li Dabai hugged his arm as if coaxing him and squeezed hard. Teacher Chen, don't be angry. I brought a lot of stockings this time. Chen Lian felt Li Dabai's sincerity, so he reached out and tapped her forehead gently to let her go this time. Otherwise, take her to the bathroom to experience what it means to make 1,000 miles, and punish her severely. It is impossible to travel thousands of miles in one day. The flight from Beijing to Tokyo takes so long. Chen Lian and Li Dabai chatted for a while on the plane before landing in Tokyo. Chen Lian and Li Dabai didn't waste any time. After coming out of the airport, they went straight to the hotel to meet Ou Dingping and the others. The film festival starts tonight. Now I have to hurry up and change my clothes to attend the film festival on time. Chen Liang and Xue Tianping also met Wu Tianming and others when they came out. Wu Tianming's film-changing face also came to participate in the selection of the film festival. When Wu Tianming saw Chen Lian, he nodded slightly at him. He had heard of this young man who was well known in the domestic literary and art circles. Chen Lian took the initiative to go over and greet them. When he walked in front of Wu Tianming, he noticed that Huang Jiangxin was also there. Only when he saw Ding Jiali behind Huang Jiangxin did he realize that Huang Jiangxin also brought a movie to the film festival this time. Stop at a red light and go at a green light, the final part of Huang Jiangxin's trilogy of urban forms. However, Chen Lian vaguely remembered that Huang Jiangxin had nothing to gain this time, but it was Wu Tianming's change of face that won the Best Director and Best Actor. Thinking of Teacher Zhu Su's performance in Face Off, Chen Lian couldn't even imagine that he could win the Best Actor. The gap between him and Teacher Zhu Su was still very big. This time I ran with you again. When can we win a Best Actor?